And I'll leave it with you, Rick. So long.
This is WGN Radio Chicago. Now WGN News brought to you by Delta. Commute to St. Louis, Cincinnati, or Louisville on Delta. Here's Rick Rosenthal.
Thank you, Lynn Johnson. Hello again. Cook County State's Attorney Bernard Carey today is announcing a new program to fight the rising rate of crime in suburban Chicago. Carey says he is teaming with suburban police chiefs and community leaders in cracking down against crime in Harvey, Riverdale, Markham, Dalton, Phoenix, Hazelcrest, East Hazelcrest, Dixmoor, and South Holland. Rewards, he says, will be offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of people responsible for committing crimes in those suburbs. The blue flu epidemic continues at Cook County Jail here in Chicago. Up to 90% of the jail's correctional officers are reported off their jobs again this morning. They're battling for salary parity with Cook County Sheriff's police officers. Cook County Sheriff Richard Elrod says the county may seek a court order to end the now 4-day-old job action. Many of the jail guards who called in sick again today are rallying this morning at the Cook County building downtown, pressing their demands for higher pay. Chicago Mayor Jane Byrne is in New York City with her top financial advisors today, hoping to convince bond rating agencies that Chicago is still a good risk for investors. Fears of a lowering in the city's bond ratings prompted Mrs. Byrne to make the trip. She is accompanied by newly appointed Financial Committee Chief Edwin Yo. Chicago Teachers Union President Robert Healy says he will recommend a strike if the Chicago Board of Education approves a plan that would reduce the school year by 3 days. A 3-day cut in the length of the school year, Healy says, would be a violation of the present teacher's contract. The Chicago Board of Education is meeting this morning, considering a total of almost $48 million in budget cuts being proposed by the acting superintendent, Angeline Caruso. Part of that plan calls for a shutdown of 34 schools in the system, closing of 11 other administrative buildings as well, and the elimination of more than 3,000 jobs, about two-thirds of them teaching positions. The federal tax evasion trial of Illinois Attorney General William Scott continues here in federal court. Prosecutors trying to prove that Scott diverted political campaign funds to his personal use. Evanston Attorney John Porter is going to be going to Congress from Chicago's North Shore 10th District. The Republican Porter beat Democrat Robert Weinberger in yesterday's special election in the 10th. President Carter delivers his State of the Union address tonight. A joint session of Congress will be convening at 8 o'clock Chicago time, and you can hear the President's State of the Union address tonight right here on WGN Radio beginning at 8 p.m. Part of the focus the President is expected to take, the situation in Iran and the continuing crisis in Afghanistan. The House Foreign Affairs Committee today will consider a resolution supporting President Carter's suggestion that American athletes stay away from the Moscow Olympics unless Russian troops get out of Afghanistan. Almost a dozen congressmen and senators said yesterday they support the president's proposed boycott. The funeral for former Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas will take place today in Washington. Chief Justice Warren Burger and former news commentator Eric Severide are among those who are expected to deliver eulogies. In Atlanta today, the defense in the Burt Lance money fraud trial opens its case. Yesterday, the prosecution presented its opening arguments charging Lance and 3 co-defendants misused bank funds and lied to bankers. Western sources say they believe the arrest and banishment of Soviet dissident Andrei Sakharov may have been brought on by an interview he gave last week to an American newsman. In that interview, Sakharov deplored the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. The Soviet Union's dissident community, now without a leader, is trying, so far in vain, to locate Sakharov in the city of Gorky, to which he was exiled from Moscow yesterday. Well, we've got a partly sunny and cold day lined up today, and we'll have weather details for you in just a moment.
I admit it, I'm a clock watcher. I like my 3-minute eggs cooked for 180 seconds. Get my glasses all steamed up watching them boil. And if I've got a 6 o'clock date, I ring the doorbell at 5:59. So when it comes to an out-of-town trip, you can imagine how I feel. Thank goodness for Delta Airlines. They're clock watchers, too. You can tell because they've got a flight leaving just about any time you want to go. Like this timetable I saved for my trip to New Orleans last week. 4 Delta nonstops a day to New Orleans, the most on any airline. Plus 3 one-stop through jets and easy connecting flights and low-fare night coaches. Flights from morning till after midnight. So it's a cinch to get a Delta flight time that's the right time for you. Same thing goes for St. Louis. Up to 10 Delta nonstops a day. Nobody beats that. That's what I like best about Delta. They watch the clock so you can unwind. Believe it, Delta is ready when you are.
So is our staff meteorologist Tom Skilling standing by. He'll check in with Roy Leonard in just a moment, give you his full appreciation of the weather situation around the greater Chicago area. I am sure he will tell you it is cold, mainly because it is. The temperature is now at O'Hare 11 degrees, Midway 13, Lakefront 12 above zero, the relative humidity 61%. The wind is from the northwest at 10 miles an hour. There's the cold air. And the barometer right now is rising 29.86 inches, wind chill index 7 below zero. I'm Rick Rosenthal.
The news brought to you by Delta. Fly Delta straight through to Fort Myers and Sarasota Bradenton. This has been WGN News. Our next report, 11 o'clock. Right now, here's Roy.
Hello from Chicago. Hello, staff meteorologist Tom Skilling. How are you?
Roy. Good. How are you?
I'm well this morning. It's a little chilly outside,
Yeah,
but
I
I
was
feel
going to
good.
ask if you were staying warm.
Well, I must admit, we have talked about this, and I'm not going to bore people with it. I'm one of those dumb people who happens to like the winter. I don't like a lot of it. I don't want it to go on forever, but I've always liked changes of season. I can't imagine living in Florida or California unless I had to for health reasons.
Roy, I agree with you 100%. I live down in Jacksonville, Florida, and there is a little bit of a change up there in the northern section of the state, but I wouldn't give up our seasons for anything. And you know something? I think we have an inferiority complex, any of us who like winter weather, because so many people educate us to feel that there's something wrong with us,
Yeah.
you know, to like snow and cold weather once in a while. And
But now that we've had the cold weather, we've had enough. I mean, one night of 5 above is enough. Now let's get it warm again.
Sure, well, we'll be back up to 80 tomorrow and 90 the next day, and it's all over. No, I tell you, Roy, we were in the cool air for a little while. There is a sign of a moderation, very slow one, and not all that significance compared to some of the warm air we've had earlier in the month as we head toward the weekend. But along with that, we might get into a snowier weather regime, too, so we'll keep our eyes on that. For the next 24 hours, though, it's high pressure up in northern Minnesota that's coming our way. Promises a mostly sunny, chilly day, maybe an afternoon flurry or two from the scattered clouds. Highs today up to about 18 degrees, and then most of tonight clear, but some scattered clouds coming in by morning. And temperatures tonight from 5 below out west to about 5 above on the lakefront. And tomorrow, then, mostly cloudy, chance of a few snow flurries, very light, and high temperatures tomorrow expected to hit 15 to 20. So it looks pretty chilly, and some indications of a weather system developing out in the Rockies over the weekend that we might have to keep our eyes on, but that's a way off yet.
Yeah, and it wouldn't even affect us until the weekend or late on the weekend.
That's right, Roy.
All right. We had that same thing that we were looking out for last weekend. What did it go, north or south of us?
That thing went south of us, and really, this big high pressure that came in and brought us such nice weather this week kind of forced it down into Mexico, where it dumped all kinds of snow in the mountains of Rockies on the way. But beyond that, we don't see anything in the immediate future that we have to worry about.
All right. You know, you and I, coming to Chicago late in our career, missed something. Or did you ever, when you were up in Milwaukee, did you ever come down here and hear of a place called Riverview?
Sure did, Roy. Yes.
The subject came up on Wally's show about a week or so ago, and I was amazed at the number of people who reminisce about Riverview, who collect memorabilia from Riverview. Maybe for some of our audience, we'll have to explain what it is. We're going to talk a little bit about it this morning. As the book says that I have in front of me, gone but not forgotten. So a little nostalgia is coming up, and maybe it'll make us think of the summertime anyway.
All right.
Talk to you tomorrow about
Good,
this
Roy.
time.
See
Bye-bye.
you later. Sure.
Bye-bye,
Bye
Tom.
now.
The child with cerebral palsy grows up, but he or she still has cerebral palsy. It's a crippling condition caused by damage to the brain, and it doesn't go away. How well the child grows, what he or she makes of their life, depends a lot upon the help and understanding they get along the way. United Cerebral Palsy helps with education, therapy, training, counseling, and other special programs. They are also searching for and often finding ways to prevent it. Your help and your understanding are needed too. Please support United Cerebral Palsy.
Kitchen.
Benton?
Right.
Look, he's up late tonight.
What does he want?
He's signing some very important papers in the West Wing.
What does he want?
It could affect the world. and
What does
He says he could really go for a bowl of Campbell's soup.
Oh, no.
Benton?
I'm not opening a whole can of Campbell's for just one guy.
What?
Either he wakes up the vice president to finish the soup or he gets the rest of it for breakfast. I mean,
Benton, listen to me.
What?
If you look in your cupboard, we ordered soup for one from Campbell's.
what's that, half a can of Campbell's?
No, soup for one is a single serving, but it's tastier, zestier. It's got more of what adults find delicious. Look at the old world vegetable.
Oh, it's got zucchini, pea beans, onions, spinach, Parmesan cheese.
Right, so it tastes different.
You know, that'd be good for those occasions when he's dining alone.
That's what I
Great
said.
idea, soup for
Benton,
one.
just bring the soup for one.
I love soup for one.
And and a glass of milk.
Hold it.
What?
I'm not opening a whole carton of milk for just one guy.
Oh.
Either he wakes up the vice president or he...
Soup for one from Campbell's, New England clam chowder, tomato royale, golden chicken and noodles, and lots of other more adult soups. Campbell's Soup for One, something really different.
It's now 11 minutes after 10 o'clock in the morning, and Hillshire Farm has a new Italian flavor idea for you spaghetti and pizza lovers. They've got it at Dominic's and a lot of fine Chicagoland food stores. Hillshire Farm smoked Italian sausage. It's noted for the fresh, meaty Wisconsin goodness, and the new smoked Italian sausage is no exception. Made from fresh cuts of meat with the right amount of Italian seasoning, and it's slowly hardwood smoked to add a rich flavor extra for everybody in the family to enjoy. And you'll find the new Hillshire Farm smoked Italian sausage over at Dominic's and Centrella and Certified and many fine Chicagoland food stores. There's a great way to plan an Italian menu. Plan it around the new smoked Italian flavor of Hillshire Farm smoked Italian sausage. Your family is going to love you for it. So a week or so ago, we were sitting here, and a question had come up on the Wally Phillips Show about when Riverview closed. And the only thing that I remembered was having moved here in 1967. I remember I saw Riverview because I came in here to do Wally's show for a week in June of '67, and then moved here permanently in the fall of that year. And I remember the cab driver taking me down Western Avenue and pointing out this place to me, and it was still operating, but none of us could remember exactly when it closed. Well, you know, that's the nice thing about having an audience like we have here in Chicago. A fellow by the name of Bill Rafke called me. In fact, Bill just walked into the studio a minute ago. Glad to meet you in person, guy.
Nice to meet you.
I'm glad you happened to listen to WGN, by the way. That's good, because you remembered right away. In fact, you told me the whole story about the closing of Riverview. Are you into it? I mean, are you just a buff of Riverview? Are you a Chicagoan? Or how did you know all this?
Well, I've lived here all my life. And up until a few years ago, we used to live right at Clyburn and Oakley.
Oh, yeah.
And it started when I was about 4 years old. Grandmother used to walk with me over to the park, and I used to watch the parachutes.
Oh, that was a big thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then about 4 years ago, my folks bought a big 16 by 20 photo of Aladdin's Castle for me from Chuck.
Uh-huh. Oh, by the way, do you want to introduce your friend Chuck? Bring him here into the show, because he has joined us. In fact, Chuck might be well known to some Chicagoans who have his book. In fact, Wally's got your book, I think, Chuck, in his files. You pronounce the last name once, and I'll try and do it right from there on in, Chuck.
Okay, it's Voldarsic.
All right, and Voldarsic happens to be a good Chicago name.
Yeah, good Irish name.
Chuck Voldarsic wrote a book called Gone But Not Forgotten, this photo history book. How long has this been out?
It's been out a little over 2 years. It came out in August of '77.
All right. Now, how did you guys meet, Bill? How did you find out about this guy?
That was through my parents buying the photo for me.
Oh,
and then I started calling them up and buying more photos, and just continued to buy more photos.
Now, is the Voldarsic a business just selling Riverview memorabilia, or what else do you do, Chuck?
Well, actually, I work for Roadway Inn here in Chicago. I drive a van for them.
Oh, I see.
Picking people up at the airport back and forth.
Oh,
and
good.
Prior to writing the book, I was a truck driver for many years. And
again, a Chicagoan, though.
Oh, native, right.
All right, so here are two real Chicagoans, and I presume, like our friend Bill Rafke, you used to go to Riverview as a youngster?
Many times, and when I was about 9 years old, as a gift, I got a camera from my uncle, who was a professional photographer, and then Riverview became a twofold thing for me to photograph and ride the rides.
All right, now to new Chicagoans, can you explain in just a few words why Riverview is memorable, why it means so much to Chicagoans?
Well, you know, a lot of people ask me if I'm working on another book, and probably the only thing that I could write about now is the wonderful letters I got from people that really enjoyed this book, because they'll start out by saying, I went to Riverview many times. I'm living in California now, and I really miss it, and I'm sure people in Chicago also miss it.
Mm-hmm.
But it has a sentimental value to me because 35 years ago I met my wife on the Shoots or on the parachutes or something. And it seems that a lot of people met at Riverview, and a lot of people had good times at Riverview, and it was around for 64 years, so it meant a lot for everybody. And it was the world's largest amusement park.
Oh, what? Now, see, I didn't know that. So you got to tell me. I don't know all these things. Riverview was the world's largest amusement park?
Yes. It would be hard to say if Coney Island in its heyday was bigger than Riverview, but Coney Island, if anybody's familiar with it, was a complex of 5 parks owned by 5 different people.
Yeah.
Built side by side, where Riverview was a family-run organization throughout the years, and it was situated on over 100 acres, had close to 100 rides.
Oh, now, help me out. I'm a little kid from the East, and the place that I remember is Nantasket Beach on the Atlantic Ocean, right a little south of Hingham and Hull, Massachusetts, in a place called Paragon Park. Have you ever been up there, or ever seen pictures of it or anything?
I've seen a lot of pictures of it. I'm very familiar with the park, though I haven't been there. They have the number 5 rated coaster in the country right now. So
yeah, but I mean, now, I wonder in size, because to me, on my little legs when I was 7 years old, I couldn't make it all the way around Paragon Park, because I thought it was huge. But I guess compared to Riverview, it probably was half as big.
Yeah, it probably was. You know, at one time, Chicago was probably the amusement capital of the world, because besides Riverview, years ago, they had Luna Park, White City, Forest Park out in Forest Park, Illinois, right where just about where the Congress Expressway L trains end.
Oh.
And people used to take the old L trains out, or the Chicago Aurora and Elgin, and go to Forest Park. And probably roller coasters at one time. It was Riverview had 10 at one time. And
10 roller coasters?
10, yes. And then toward the end, they had 6 operating coasters.
What was your favorite ride, Bill? Do you remember the thing that you liked to do most when you went to Riverview?
I hated most of the rides. Yes, I cried on most of the rides.
Yeah,
I was only 4 years old at the time the park closed.
I got to love it with you guys. I still have never been on a roller coaster. I mean, I go to amusement places. I've taken my kids down to Six Flags. We've gone a lot of places. I have yet to ever get, and I'm chicken. I'm scared. First of all, I don't like heights to begin with, but you couldn't get me on a roller coaster if you paid me. Well, I don't know. If you paid me enough, well, that's another story. But you didn't really like the rides?
No, I hated most of them.
Well, if you didn't like the rides, what did you go for? Were there other things to do at Riverview?
I just was mainly so infatuated with the parachutes that I could stand there for hours and just watch those things go up and down.
Now, these parachutes, I think I remember seeing the tower when I came to Chicago. Now, what did you do? What did you do? Did they get you in the harness and then bring you up and then lower you down? How did the parachute jump actually work, Chuck?
Well, actually, what it was a free-fall parachute jump, and it was a first for the amusement industry because it was set up 2 years before the one opened up in Coney Island, which actually was built for the World's Fair in '39, but the one at Riverview opened in '37. And originally, it was a tower that just stood there. It was called the Eiffel Tower, E-Y-E-F-U-L. And it was a viewing tower, and it had a rickety elevator that ran up the center shaft, and the city condemned that. So the tower just stood for many years, and in '37 they put the spans on and made a free-fall parachute jump. Now, this is much different than the ones you see today at Six Flags or Knott's Berry Farm, things like that. Those are simulated free-fall. This went up by a lift, and when you hit the contact point, it felt like the seat dropped out from under you. If you were wearing loafers, it knocked it right off your feet. And the heavier you were, the faster you came down, and you hit big springs on the bottom.
But there was nothing guiding? I mean, were there any strings?
There was guide
attached?
wires for the chutes after it would open up, you know.
Yeah.
But it was actual free fall outside of the guide.
It really was. Oh, here we got some. Too bad this isn't television. But whose album is this, by the way?
This is mine. Well, they're Chuck's photos, though.
Oh, I see. So
all of his photos.
Oh, yeah. He's got some color photographs of that. Hey, that was high up. How high was that?
About 220 feet you went up.
Okay, I wouldn't have got on a roller coaster, and I wouldn't have gone up in those either. Hey, listen, we're going to share our conversation with our listeners today, but Chuck Wlodarczyk, who put together the book, Riverview, Gone But Not Forgotten, and Bill Rafke, who's, well, just like you. He's a Chicagoan, but he remembers Riverview, and he's become sort of a buff on the thing, and we'd like to share the conversation with you today. We got to take a break for a few messages, though, and then we'll talk to some people on the telephone. 20 after 10 is our WGN time, and it's cold outside, and as Tom Skilling told you, it's going to continue to be cold, but we do have some sunshine, and there is a chance of those flurries on again and off again, but there's nothing to worry about immediately anyway as far as accumulation of snow. Tomorrow, though, cloudy, continued cold. You're trying to keep your house warm, but you also would like to reduce the amount of oil or gas the furnace burns, huh? Well, thanks to a remarkable scientific invention, you can stop the heat that escapes up the chimney when the thermostat turns the furnace off. Heat stays in. You use less oil or gas to heat your home. Fuel Boss is design certified for gas furnaces by the American Gas Association. It's listed for oil furnaces by the Underwriters Laboratories, and it qualifies for a federal tax credit. There is a descriptive brochure that they'll send to you without any obligation if you want to dial a toll-free number. Now, the number is 800-331-1105. 800-331-1105. If you call that number, you'll learn how Fuel Boss can reduce the amount of oil or gas that you use this winter. So, for that free brochure, go ahead. A toll-free number, 331-1105.
You can get some great deals on gas guzzlers these days.
Big deal. The money you save on that kind of car won't go far at today's gas prices.
You said it. The only deal that makes sense these days is one that saves you a bundle today on a car that'll save you a bundle on gas tomorrow. And that's the great deal you'll get now at your local Fiat dealer. He's giving factory cash incentives, instant incentives, that can save you as much as $300, $400, even $500 more off a brand new economical 1979 Fiat. Up to $300 more on a Fiat Bravo with automatic transmission, sedan or wagon. Up to $400 more on an exciting Fiat X19 sports car. Up to $500 more on a front-wheel drive Fiat Strada with automatic transmission or air conditioning. And there's no waiting for a check, because you get your instant incentive the instant you've made your best deal on an economical Fiat.
Now that's a great deal more like it.
Get your instant incentive at your local Fiat dealer now through January 31st, 1980.
22 minutes after 10. One of the things in Chuck's book, by the way, near the end of the Riverview book, he's got some pictures of some of the roller coasters, all around the world, let alone, here as we reminisce about Riverview. Although you mentioned you don't like rides, Bill, Bill Rafke and Chuck Wlodarczyk are our guests. Do you now go on roller coasters, Bill?
All the time. As a matter of fact, when I go on vacation, I look for parks, too.
What's the best roller coaster ride you ever had in your life, do you think? Or what one would you put up near the top? Chuck, you must have an answer, too.
It'd be the Bobs at Riverview.
Really?
Yes.
Well, Chuck rode them. See, I was way too young at the time to ride them, so I'd have to go with something modern now.
Yeah, all right. From a modern ride, where have you got a good ride, if not the best ride, as far as roller coasters go?
I would have to say down the Florida Hurricane, down in Circus World in Florida.
Really good?
Yeah, it was a good coaster. It was raining pretty heavy, too, so it kind of added to the thrill of the ride.
What is it that makes the roller coaster ride so good?
Well, I'm an advocate of wooden roller coasters, and the Bob's was a very jerky, very fast ride. In fact, it was kind of a renowned coaster. Every Chicagoan will remember that rode it. You either rode it and loved it, or you didn't go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
And the manager of the ride was written up by Ripley's Believe It or Not because of the earrings that he found on or around the Bob's track, and he had all these on a platform, right at the loading platform, that were ripped off women's ears while they rode the Bobs.
Wait a minute now, just the ride would do that?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Wow.
It jostled you from side to side. It was very fast. It had banked curves. It was a Travers and Church designed coaster, which was probably the most famous roller coaster builders in the country.
But the Bobs, as far as have you ridden on most of the other good roller coaster rides?
I've ridden on probably close to 200 different coasters.
Oh, 200?
Yeah.
You don't, it would be impossible for you to be scared, right?
Well, I'll tell you, you could ride the Bobs and get scared, and you could go down to Texas and ride the Texas Cyclone at Astroworld, which is a Six Flag park.
Yeah.
And you can get scared on that coaster, too.
Listen, I go up to, not only down to Six Flags, but I'll go up to Marriott's Great America, and I'll watch my kids go on those. I wouldn't get near that one that turns over. I wouldn't go on that for the world. Is that particularly scary, though, for you?
Well, once you've ridden one of those corkscrew coasters or looping coasters, you've ridden them all, basically, because there's very little difference in design.
Yeah.
But a wooden coaster, everyone is built from blueprints, and each one has its own little surprises.
Oh, yeah. Okay, listen, we're going to talk a little bit more about Riverview, but I want to share this conversation with some listeners. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Pretty good, Roy.
Does all of this conversation mean anything to you?
Oh, yeah. It's like talking like when I was a kid.
Oh?
Yeah, my dad was in charge of all the mechanical maintenance at Riverview Park for about 30 years. His name was Clarence LaCase. And anything that went wrong with any of the rides or any of the maintenance that had to be performed in any of the rides, him and his crew would take care of,
Oh, I see.
In fact, he redesigned the Greyhound at Riverview Park and turned it into the Fireball. He designed all the cars and the difference in the track structure and everything.
Well, the Greyhound, just to make a minor correction, became the Jetstream.
Yeah, well, you're right.
And the Blue Streak became the Fireball.
That's right, the Blue Streak.
Oh, I see. So, well, of course, now, your dad working there, that means you got in free all the time.
Oh.
Lucky you.
I rode all those roller coasters until I was sore in the seat.
Hey, anyway, listen, I'm glad we're bringing back a few memories this morning.
Well, it's a good book, too. I've seen the book, and it's pretty accurate in almost every point in the book.
Before somebody asks, is this book available generally everywhere, Chuck?
Yeah, most of the B. Dalton, Walden,
okay.
Crocs, and some of the smaller stores such as Red Eggs and that.
They have it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just called Riverview, Gone But Not Forgotten. Well, you'll hear a lot of things that'll interest you this morning, I guess, Jim.
Roy,
Yo.
excuse me, one thing you might be interested in. The fellow that was the manager of the Bob's, his name was Carl Harold Jeske.
Yeah.
He also used to buy himself a new car every other year from the chains that he'd find under the ride. And that's a fact.
Boy, I tell you, with the price of gold and silver today, this guy could really clean up.
He's probably sitting down in Florida counting his earrings right now.
Thanks for the call, Jim.
Okay, right.
Yeah. That's interesting, though. Earrings and chains and what else?
Yeah, there was a few other unmentionables found on or around the Bob's tracks.
I would think so, too. Hi, Joyce.
Hi.
What are your memories of Riverview?
Well, my husband and I share exactly opposite ones. I've never been on a roller coaster, and I'd never go on one. But the rest of the family delights in watching me stand on the ground in horror as they go up.
Sure.
The Bob's has grown in height since our children were born. My husband, every time we go to the amusement park, he relates how the Bobs really were compared to this one.
Yeah, and
so from 85 feet at the highest hill, as it says in Chuck's book, it's probably about 425 feet.
Oh, sure. And if he keeps telling the story, it'll keep getting higher.
Well, they're 17, 18, and 19, so I think it has stopped growing. But he grew up at California and Montrose and spent a lot of time at Riverview, especially on the 3 and 5 cent days. And my folks and I from the south side did the same thing. But our memories are looking out the front window of the apartment and seeing the top of the parachutes and the marvelous fireworks that were set off there on the 4th of July and other times. I can't remember whether they took place every weekend at closing or whatever. But these were memories, and where kids were really teeny, they were still able to enjoy this. So we have lots of memories. My worst memory of Riverview is going into Aladdin's castle and embarrassingly being let out the emergency door. I was just
now,
afraid.
see, you got to help us unknowing people, all the new Chicagoans. What is Aladdin's castle?
Well, Aladdin's castle was probably the most famous funhouse at Riverview.
Oh.
It had a rolling barrel you would walk through. It had a stairway right in front of his face. It had a 30-foot head of Aladdin's
Yeah, in fact,
castle.
the picture in the book is great.
Right. And, of course, ladies back there all wore skirts and had to be very careful going up those stairs because they had a madman in this round booth that would blow their skirts up.
Sure, sure.
And at the end, they had a magic carpet ride. They had a screen door maze, slanted rooms.
A scary thing, yeah.
It was dark corridors and going through different mazes and stuff, but it was a lot of fun.
But they did have an emergency door for those of you that got too scared, huh, Joyce?
Unfortunately, it was at the front where everyone could see.
Anyway, I think you'll get some more memories out of this conversation this morning, too. I'm glad you shared with us, Joyce.
Thanks a lot.
You bet.
I'm enjoying it.
All righty. Hi, Lynn.
Hi. Boy, this really is bringing back a lot of memories. I really enjoy listening to it. And Aladdin's Castle was one of my favorite places. But when I was little, I scraped my knees in a barrel because I was real little and skinny, and I always wore shorts by mistake. And that's a trip in going through the barrel, but I always tried it. But the one thing, the parachutes always had fascinated me, too. And my brothers tried to get me on it and made me go on all the rides, even the Bobs. But one time when I was about 10 years old, my girlfriend and I decided we got up enough courage to go up on the parachutes. And it was so beautiful going up because you could see all of Chicago, and it was so still and so beautiful until they released it. And then usually they screamed all the way down until they hit the springs. Well, the one time we finally got the guts to get up there, one of the guidelines broke and whipped around the other one, so we swung out sideways. Well, when it whipped around, it got wrapped or something, and we got stuck on the way down.
How long were you stuck?
I don't remember, but it seemed like 2 million years. But it was quite a while because they had to free the guideline, one of the guidelines. They had 4 guidelines. But coming down, I'll never forget that is free fall. We're sitting on this little wooden seat, and we lost our shoes. Those of us lost our shoes when it snapped. And to me, I said that was really the freakiest experience.
Thanks for calling, Lynn.
You're welcome. But you did miss something that's fantastic because there's no way you can describe the whole park.
Yeah, I gather that from the book and from what the guys are telling
When
me.
you spent a day at Riverview, you came home with a stomach ache, sore legs, and usually bruised if you sat on the wrong side of the Bobs with a bigger person.
That's
you got crushed.
Yeah.
Because I had my older brother made me go on all the rides. If I wanted to go on the rides I wanted to go on, he made me go on the other rides with him.
I see.
And I had just passed the age. I don't know if there was an age or a height to get on the Bobs.
There must have been.
Yes, because it was was a very fast, very bumpy ride. Well, see, if you got on the wrong side with a heavier person, you came out smashed.
Thanks,
Black
Lynn.
and blue.
Thanks for calling.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
We got to take a break in a minute. Did I read somewhere once where somebody got married on those parachutes, Chuck?
Yeah, that's correct. They did get married, and
on the way down, or while they were up there, or
well, it was. I guess it was. It opened in 1937. I think this happened in 1939, and then Fox Movie Tone News was out there to do this, and they had to retake it about 50 times to get it right. So the minister and the couple were going up and down on the parachutes. And I guess they've had their ups and downs ever since.
Chuck Wildarzik and Bill Rafke joined us on the Roy Leonard Show today. We're just talking a little while about Riverview. We got to take a break for the business news of the morning, and then we're coming right back. Don't just think about it, though. Do something about it. I mean, Weight Watchers. Call 325-8700.
Eastern Airlines is having a winter white sale. This winter, just when you need the warm, white beaches of Florida the most, Eastern's putting them on sale. For the first winter ever, we're taking 40% off regular round-trip day coach airfares on our daily service to 16 Florida cities, and 50% off if you fly at night. And just at the right time to get a Florida tan, Eastern's also giving you great values in resort accommodations, with over 250 packages to choose from at hotels throughout Florida. Eastern has a warm spot just for you. Super Saver seats are limited and must be purchased at least 7 days in advance. So call your travel agent or Eastern Airlines right now for reservations and fare requirements. At Eastern's winter white sale prices, they're sure to go fast.
We have to earn our winnings every day.
It's the WGN in Chicago. It's Western Winter Pear Time. Those delicious Anjou, Boston, Those delicious Anjou, Boston, Commies pears are over at Jewel now, and they're nice and sweet and juicy. The Anjous are the ones with the green skin, and the Commies are kind of rosy, and then the Bosc are the golden pears, but they're all ready to enjoy. Now, they may stay the same color, whether they're fully ripened or not, but you can ripen them at home. Just leave them in a bowl at room temperature there on the kitchen table for a few days. Look for Western Winter pears when you go to Centrella.
When you want someone you know you can count on, Seven's on your side. We've got the people that you can depend on. Seven's on your side.
To Jay Levine of Channel 7's Eyewitness News, being on your side is giving you the whole story.
If I see something that bothers me, somebody's being taken advantage of, someone's in trouble, here I've got the freedom to pursue that story to the South Side or to South America, wherever it takes me. And I can report it exactly as I see it. No red tape, no holes barred. They say go with it, do it. And we do.
Each day's a new day and we can get through it. Seven's on your side. No matter what happens, together we'll do it. Seven's on your side.
Now, before we get back to our reminiscence of Riverview, let's find out what's going on in the business world as we start off Wednesday, January the 23rd. Here's Max Armstrong with his report.
Thank you, Roy. Gold and silver prices are sharply lower again today. The stock exchange was lower, too, for a while. Now it has turned around and is a bit higher. There was renewed buying, helping gold prices recover from some of the heavy losses suffered early today. Gold dropped more than $85 an ounce in the early London trading. Many analysts feel the stock market may be marking time today. As the day wears on, traders will be awaiting President Carter's State of the Union address tonight. The Dow Jones Industrial Average now up 2.65 at 868.86. The transportation's down 0.34 at 268.50. The utilities up 0.14 at 107.65. The New York Stock Exchange Composite Index up 0.13 at 64.26 on a volume of about 15 million shares. Advancing issues leading the declining ones 579 to 508. Among the most actives, Ben Gay Consolidated up 1 at 11 3/8. RCA down 5/8 at 22 1/8. Texaco down a quarter at 33 1/8. Capital Holding up 3/8 at 21. Sharing Plow up 1.5 at 36. Dr. Pepper up 5/8 at 15 5/8. Eastman Kodak up 1 at 49 7/8. General Telephone and Electronics unchanged at 27 5/8. On the American Stock Exchange, the index down 0.09 at 260.91. The volume on the American about 3.3 million shares. The most active there, Atlas Mining, down an eighth at 5 7/8. I'll be back with a look at the agricultural markets right after this.
All right, skiers, ski families, and snow bunnies, Royce Sports Stores, 5 locations, are holding their annual President's Sale, 40% off the ski equipment, 3 weeks earlier this year. The 28-hour 40% off sale is on name brands now. Olin, Nordica, Hansen, Head and Roffey, all the Royce Sports Stores in Wheaton and Glen Ellen and Hinsdale and Wilmette and Palatine. You can buy for now or for next year, but there are hundreds of items in stock. That includes clothing at 40% off. Bring along a station wagon or bring the neighbors in. Now, tomorrow from 9 to 9, Friday from 9 to 6, and Saturday from 9 to 5 at Royce Sports Stores in Wheaton. That's 113 Front Street. Glen Ellen is 608 North Main. Hinsdale is 26 First Street. Wilmette is 335 Ridge. And out in Palatine at Countryside Mall. You're going to save a lot of big dollars, so stop in at the nearest Royce, the family of fine sports stores. All right, Max, the rest of the report?
In the Midwest livestock trade today, a cattle market firm to 50 cents higher. Down at Peoria, they have 1,000 cattle with a steer top of $66, a top on heifers of $65.50. The hog market 50 cents to $1 lower, the top of $38.10 at those Midwest terminal markets. Mostly higher markets on the Chicago Board of Trade. March wheat up 3.5 at $4.54. March corn up 3 at $2.73.5. March oats up 1 3/4 at $1.46.5. March soybeans up 8 at $6.66.5. March soybean oil up 11 at $23.80. March soybean meal up $2.10 at $188 a ton. The January soybean complex contracts went off the board yesterday. January iced boilers up $165 at $43.85. January plywood up $17.50 at $211. January silver up $1.50 at $35. On the Mercantile Exchange, mostly lower markets, February pork bellies down 120 points at $40.75. February hogs down 83 cents at $40.27. April hog futures down to 72 cents at $39.50. Live cattle lower, February down $1.13 at $63.32. April down to 75 at $66.45. March feeder cattle down $0.50 at $79.30. March lumber up $1.40 at $234.70. January gold up 30 at $700 an ounce. March gold down 50 at $716 on the international monetary market. Again, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 2.65 at 868.86. Roy, I'll have another look at the markets about an hour from now.
Thank you, Max, for the up-to-the-minute report. And here's something else you'll be interested in, friend.
Bigfoot Lores Band. Big enough to kill rootworm. Big enough to kill cutworm, too. In fact, Bigfoot Lores Band is the only rootworm insecticide that is labeled for the control of cutworms. There's nothing like it. Just check the label on your insecticide. And because Lores Band 15G insecticide gets rootworm and cutworm, too, Bigfoot Lores Band kicks corn yields up.
Get that Bigfoot Lores Band at PAG Garden Prairie Incorporated, Garden Prairie, Illinois, and at many other dealers. Bigfoot Lores Band from Dow. Chuck Wildarza came in today, brought by his friend Bill Rafke. I do have to say something right away, though. Now, Chuck, you wrote the book Riverview, Gone But Not Forgotten. You are a Chicagoan. You mentioned that you are a businessman and you have a daily job that you have to go to in addition to all of this. But the thing that I'm a little puzzled by, our friend Bill Rafke, I would guess from looking at you that you've got to be in your late teens or early 20s.
Teens.
Are you still going to school?
Yeah, Amundsen High School.
Oh, does do your morning teachers know where you are today, or is this an excused absence?
Excused absence.
Yeah, I was going to say the world knows that he's on WGN, so it's an excused absence. You certainly couldn't call in sick this morning.
All right.
But are there many kids your age in high school here in Chicago who may not remember Riverview, but know it only as a memory?
Well, most of them say to me, oh, yeah, I heard about Riverview. You know, my folks talk about Riverview, and I've heard about it, but other than that, they can't even visualize my collection because they can't think somebody would be so involved in something that's been gone. It's been gone for 12 years now.
Yeah, now, for those of you who weren't listening the day Bill called me on the telephone, when Riverview closed on Labor Day of 1967, they fully expected to reopen, did they not?
Oh, yes. Yes, they had done some remodeling, too. They spent, Chuck, how much did they spend on
There was
the
a lot
67.
of remodeling done between the '66 and '67 season on the old mill, on the carousel, and on the chutes-to-chutes tower because of deterioration. And from what I could gather from my research in doing the book, the license was purchased for the '68 season, and the sign was painted up that Riverview had opened May 10th, 1968. And in between that time, it was sold.
Was it always owned by the same person throughout all the years?
It was owned by the Schmidt family, William Schmidt Sr. and then George, and then Bill Schmidt Jr.
All right, but it was a family-owned operation all the way.
Yeah.
Right.
That's nice to hear because we just now the big corporations seem to run everything, and
when we do these shows, we always get some people that worked at Riverview, and Chuck Simzik, who's a very good friend of mine, he has become from these shows, was purchasing agent for the park for over 35 years, and he's kind of a walking encyclopedia of knowledge. He knows.
Yeah, shows. Now, Bill Rafke mentioned to me on the telephone when he talked to me about a week or two ago that that you guys go out and do shows. In fact, I've got a letter from a lady in Berwyn, she's president of a senior citizens group, and they're always looking for programs. Do you guys? Is this the sort of thing that you go around and do? And
yes, we got a bunch of them lined up. They'll probably be starting out in March with the public library, such as Des Plaines and North.
Now, how can people? Is there an address that they can write to you?
Yeah, they could write to me in care of Riverview Publications, 5246 North McVicker.
Here in Chicago?
Chicago 60630.
All right, tell you what, if you folks want to write this address, and by the way, I'm acting as your agent. I've already got a letter. Pass that over.
Okay.
Thank
You guys have already got a date somewhere. But I tell you what, if you want to get a pencil and paper, I will write, I will repeat that address. So if you want to talk to Chuck or to Bill and find out about these programs that they do, you'll have a chance to do so. All right, Cookie, you've been patiently waiting there. Did you have a question about Riverview?
Yes, I did. I grew up across the street from Riverview and was there when it closed. And I was just curious. I heard a lot of rumors about people dying on the bobs and what have you. I was wondering if they knew exactly how many people were killed or seriously injured there.
Was there somebody who was injured or killed?
Well, there was actually 6 deaths at Riverview in its 64-year history.
Only 6 in 64 years?
Right. It's a phenomenal record, really. And of these 6 deaths, actually only 2 of them were really attributed to park negligence or ride failure, or however you want to put it.
I see.
The rest of it was actually, a fella stood up on the bobs, and fortunately he was riding the last seat and was decapitated going down the first hill.
Yeah, I had heard about that one.
Well, something should be mentioned that a lot of rumors were started in the last few years of the park that really did hurt the park. A lot of rumors were just started by, even in '67, when my mother had told friends of hers that she had taken us to the park. They said, "You took your kids to Riverview." Like this was walking in a bad section or something like that. And it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
We never had any problems there. And,
Well, my brother and I went there every day through the entire summer growing up.
Every day?
Living across the street.
Oh, well, sure. Yeah.
It was no big deal.
Well,
I talked to people, and they've never been there once in their lives, and it was just an everyday occurrence to us.
How much did it cost to get into Riverview? Does anybody remember?
Well, yeah, they had, actually, I kind of start my shows off with a photo of the free passes they used to send out, and everybody kind of felt privileged to have one of these because it had your name on there typed in, and it allowed you to get into the park free. Well, and then what I bring out is there was 6 to 9 million of these mailed out every year. And if you didn't get one through the mail, you could buy the Sunday Tribune or the Times, and there was one in there.
But did they have a ticket booth? I mean, at the opening?
Yeah. If you were an out-of-towner and came into Chicago and went to Riverview, it cost you $1 to get in the park.
Whole dime?
A whole dime.
Oh, boy. Hey, listen, it was nice of you to talk to us today, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Cookie. Hi, Jan.
Hi. I wanted to add something to what the lady was just saying about the accidents there at Riverview.
Yeah.
And it really was a very, very safe place, I think, as far as the number of serious accidents that happened. My grandfather was at Martha Washington Hospital for about 40 years, and during much of that time, he was the doctor on call when something serious would happen, past the first aid stage.
Oh, they had a doctor in the immediate vicinity, up the street.
Martha Washington Hospital is at Western and Irving Park.
Yeah, I know. I go by it every morning and every afternoon.
That was
it's a little hospital, but they would handle the serious accidents that happened there. And really, for the number of people who came through Riverview and for the crazy rides that were there were really very, very few bad things that happened. And like you said, the things that did happen frequently were the fault of the person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like
putting your hand where it didn't belong or whatever.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for calling, Jan.
Okay.
I know you fellas belong to an organization, and I want to talk a little bit about the Roller Coaster Buffs International, because maybe some of you listening had never heard of the organization or are kind of interested in what they do, and I am, because I haven't even got myself... By the way, I want you guys think about this for a minute. We're going to take a break for some commercials. There are probably a lot of other people like me who just are scared, are really afraid of getting on a roller coaster. And maybe there's some way that you could prepare us mentally or physically, because, I'm not against going on a roller coaster. I might be able to be persuaded if I thought I could get through it. Anyway, we'll talk about that and a few other things right after a few commercials.
The Toro White Sale is on now at your nearby Toro dealer. It's your chance for big savings on the #1 snow thrower in snow country. Buy a Toro 20-inch model that's on sale now. Plus, get a $30 check from the Toro Company. You'll be putting snow in its place with a Toro 20-inch recoil or electric start model. And you'll get a great white sale deal, plus a $30 check from Toro. The 20-inch Toro snow thrower is heavy on performance, but light and so easy to handle. It can cut through your toughest snow jobs, and it won't clog, even in wet, heavy snow. Have time to enjoy this winter and the many winters to come by getting yourself a 20-inch Toro today. Save the strain of shoveling and save big dollars during the Toro White Sale, going on now at participating dealers. Buy any 20-inch model on sale, plus get a $30 check from the Toro Company.
Your 20-inch Toro snow thrower is all ready to go while the supplies last, so hurry in during this big Toro White Sale. Your nearby Toro dealer is the fellow who is listed in the yellow pages under Lawn and Garden. Our time is 13 before 11. County Fair nuts are available over at Fairway Foods.
You can look lots of places for furniture, but remember this. Wherever you may roam, there's no place like Homemaker. Not low-priced furniture. Homemaker. Good furniture at low prices. Homemakers.
There's no place like Homemakers. Where else can you find a big furniture showroom warehouse that'll give you not only dramatically lower prices, but let you take the fine furniture you see home with you, and is backed by John M. Smith? Well, no place, that's where. And where else would you find quality furniture like the stunning dining rooms that you find in the Broyhill collections? A beautiful, contemporary 6-piece Broyhill dining room set, priced the Homemaker's way to save you $130 over the regular prices at Woodfield, Downers Grove, and Orland Square.
Not low-priced furniture. Homemaker. Good furniture at low prices. Homemakers. A division of John M. Smith.
Know what I just got? My first new car, 1980 Chevy Monza. They're building more small Chevys than ever, so I just walked in and drove out with what I wanted. Low price, and lots at no extra cost. Front bucket seats, tinted glass, even a sports steering wheel. And it's my yellow. Chevy Monza's got it. Now I've got it.
This Chevy's got it. Just come and get it. Get a brand new Chevrolet.
I want to ask our guests this morning, Bill Rafke and Chuck Wildarczyk, what is this Roller Coaster Buffs International that I know both of you are kind of interested in it?
Well, I'm Midwest Regional Director in the aspect that my job is to locate members in the Midwest that are interested in roller coasters. And, of course, by joining our club, what they get is when we have a convention, we're going to have one out probably on the West Coast this year.
Mm-hmm. You hold your meetings on the roller coaster, right?
No. They have different seminars where they show slides, movies, and talk about coasters and go through the listing of the top 10, top 50. But each morning at the park, depending on how many roller coasters they have, they get exclusive ride time when the park is closed to the general public.
Oh, I see.
So you can get your seat and sit until you can't take it no more.
Well, now, when you, Bill Rafke, when you went down to Florida, did you, because you're a member of the organization, did you get any special privileges as far as the roller coaster ride?
Well, basically, because it was raining, there was nobody there.
Yeah.
So they kind of made, they let me sit in the back seat and everything, and they just they let it keep on going.
They didn't stop at the...
Well, yeah, when it came into the station, but a few times it was raining so heavy that the brakes didn't work and it slid right through.
In other words, you just kept right on going and going
until I could take it.
Did you? Do you remember how many times you went before you had to get off?
About 20 times, 25 times.
Was there a reason that you wanted them to stop?
I had to go to the bathroom.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Roy,
one question, you get an answer.
One thing that was nice about Riverview, if you were an avid fan of the Bobs, you could stand in line. You'd pay your... I guess the highest price it ever became was 60 cents for the first ride, but they had a second ride policy, which was like if it was 60 cents for the first ride, it'd be 35 for second and additional rides. And I'm a last seat rider because that's where the ride is the fastest and the roughest.
Oh.
And you would get your last seat maybe after standing in line for about a half an hour, and you could maintain that seat until you ran out of money or your nerves were so afraid you had to get off.
Did you have to stand in line, you mean, to get to the last seat? In other words, there were that many people who wanted the last seat?
Yes, the last seat and first seat are the most popular in roller coasters.
Oh, now the last seat is popular because it's the whippiest and the scariest?
Right, you have the weight of the train dragging you down the hill, so you're actually going down the hills faster than you're going up. And if you ride the front, you get the sensation of seeing the tracks, and you go up the hills faster than you go down.
Has anybody ever tried to figure out why people want to ride roller coasters?
Well, that's interesting. I mentioned Bob Cartmel a little while ago, and he's, I think he's dean of New York State University, and he's a member of ACE and RC. I don't know if he's in RCBI or not, but he's about 9 years ago was given a grant from, I believe it was Smithsonian, to find out why people ride roller coasters. So for the last 9 years, he's been running around the country, and I think he's ridden close to 330 some different coasters.
Wow.
Just about every one that's in existence. And he's the fellow, if you ever see any write-ups in the newspaper, that has the rating on the top 10.
Oh.
And all he was able to come up with, besides burning up this money and riding all these roller coasters, is people ride them out of fear or a dare.
Oh.
And once you get on a coaster, if it's a mild one, you start looking and you enjoy it, and you start looking for a faster, rougher one. And Bob Cartmel, of course, being the expert that he was, I was quite thrilled to find out that he agrees with me that the Bob's was his all-time favorite.
The Bob's was it, huh? All right, listen, in fact, to stick around, friends, because I want to find out what this Bob Carmel that Chuck Wlodarczyk is mentioning, you mentioned in your book some of the others. I'd like to find out what his ratings are. I'm kind of curious as to how he rates the different roller coasters all around the country. And to you people who are waiting on the telephone, please, I will get to you. You just a little patience, so we got to take a break for these commercials, and then we'll get to all your questions. If you're a family and you want to travel together, got some good news for you from Northwest Orient Airlines. This is money-saving news. With the new family fares that are available on Northwest, one parent pays full coach fare, the second family member pays half, and children ages 2 through 17, they fly at 60% off. Now, the fares apply anywhere in the United States except Alaska and Hawaii on round-trip travel, begun by March 27th and completed by May 31st. No minimum stay required. Make your reservations, buy your tickets at least 24 hours in advance. Call a travel agent or Northwest now.
Get that good, comfortable feeling. White cabins in the sky. Fly the White Cabin Airline, Northwest Orient.
It's 6.5 minutes before 11 o'clock in the morning. It's a cold day. It probably won't get any warmer than it is right now. Well, maybe a little. It's 11 degrees now. It may get up to the teens, but that's as high as it'll be. No snow or anything, just a few flurries now and then. Now, in ancient Rome, they had a saying. It was called buyer beware. And the Pastorelli family, which came from a region near Rome, would like to add something to that. Beware of fancy name brands that seem to promise more than they deliver. You see, the label reveals the truth. For example, some sauces are heavy with added water and thickening agents, but not Pastorelli. Pastorelli, Italian chef pizza, and spaghetti sauces are fully concentrated, pure, honest-to-goodness goodness. Treat the family to the sauce that won the International Gold Medal, Pastorelli. It's on sale at leading supermarkets. Save and enjoy.
Michigan apples, they're more than just pretty. They've got natural old-fashioned lip-smacking apple taste.
Well, if you're after some taste, Michigan apples will more than live up to their reputation. The taste is so special, you can actually tell the difference between Michigan apples and other kinds. And don't just go on color either, because not all apples are red. In fact, color doesn't have anything to do with the great flavor of Michigan apples. Whether you eat them fresh or use them for baking or delicious pies or some homemade applesauce, here's a special wintertime idea. Keep a bag of Michigan apples on hand, always. Naturally. Good. Makes for satisfying snacking and for cooking, too. They're really a good buy. A message presented by the Michigan Apple Growers.
Michigan apples, they're more than just pretty. They've got natural old-fashioned lip-smacking apple taste.
A little nostalgia about Riverview today. Bill Rafke, who's a student over at Amundsen High School, is just a buff, a young man who's just found this whole thing fascinating because he can remember his parents taking him there when he was a little kid. And Chuck Wlodarczyk has practically made a second business out of Riverview. He's published a book called Riverview, Gone But Not Forgotten. He's the regional director of the Roller Coaster Buffs International. And Peter's got a question. What is it, Pete?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm real good.
Well, I was an avid buff myself, and my parents used to take me to what they called the Riverview Ramble every summer. I was wondering if Chuck remembered that.
Yeah, I have a special section on my book, and it mentions the Ramble, and it mentions some of the other Crane Packing Company had a big day there, and then, of course, they had special days such as Jay's Potato Chip Day and Coke Day at Riverview, where you go to your grocery store and you get coupons which would allow you 6 free rides if you bought a package of Jay's. Or
Sure. Anything else, Pete?
Yeah, it was a great disappointment when they closed it. I was wondering what they did with all those fantastic rides.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that ought to... Yeah, what did they do with everything?
The majority of rides were just wrecked.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Just
right.
wrecked?
And sold for scrap.
Now, was that... let's see, Bill, you mentioned on the phone something that is somewhere. Oh, the carousel.
Right, the Riverview Carousel is over at Six Flags in Georgia. And they got it from Galena, Illinois. The mayor of Galena bought it when Riverview closed. And it's minus 3 horses, though.
Does anybody know where those are?
No, but they're valuable.
They were stolen in transit from Chicago to Galena and from Galena to...
Because they're valuable, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, there was 70 horses, and when I talked to the people down at Six Flags, they said these horses could be valued up to $50,000 because they're irreplaceable. Each.
Oh, my gosh. Anything else that was taken intact out of the park that you guys can think of offhand?
Some of the portable rides, such as the Rotor. The Rotor supposedly is somewhere on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the other portable rides that went to carnivals and other small parks.
Well, there was a park here, Playland at 79th and LaGrange. They bought the Ferris wheel and Riverview's Paratrooper ride. And that was down there. But basically, most of the stuff had to be torn down.
That's too bad.
Roy?
Yeah, Pete?
One more question.
Sure.
Is there any amusement park anywhere comparable to Riverview?
Today, you mean?
Today.
Probably going back to the old style of amusement park, because the thing today is theme parks. Probably one of the finest amusement parks in the country is Kennywood Park at Pittsburgh.
No, wait a minute. You just mentioned a name I've never heard of in my life. I'm serious. What is it called?
Kennywood. It's the roller coaster capital of the world.
Oh, is it? Oh.
They have 4 roller coasters there and a number 2 rated coaster.
And 4 in the one park?
Right.
And as far as an amusement park goes, that rate's pretty high?
Very high, yeah.
Okay. All right, Pete.
Thank you very much.
You got a place to go to.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Adele, I know you've been waiting a long time, but we got about a minute before we have to take a break.
All I wanted to tell you is that we used to go there once a week, and then as the children got older, my own children, I also took them. And the one thing I didn't hear you discuss was the Mardi Gras. I won a pair of roller skates there for being one of the best-dressed ones there.
The what did you call it?
A Mardi Gras.
Okay.
Mardi Gras.
We used to dress in costumes.
Right. Let me reminisce a little bit about the Mardi Gras, because somebody was talking about the fireworks and they didn't know actually when
That's
it happened.
why the fireworks were going off.
Right.
I know.
What would happen is all these funny little kids would get on the streetcars and the buses in their costumes. And if they came to the park in costume, they got in free, and they got some free rides out of it. And they'd march around in the Mardi Gras parade, which usually was held in August toward the closing of the season.
Right.
And then right after the parade, they would have what they called Riverview's Moment of Madness, where they would set off probably $1,000 worth of fireworks each night. And of course, everybody in the neighborhood would come out and see this elaborate display of fireworks.
Sure.
And another thing you didn't discuss is my favorite roller coaster ride there was the Flying Turns.
Well, the Flying Turns is not really a roller coaster.
Well, we did go up on the tracks, remember?
You started out like a roller coaster, and then when you got up to the top, you had your surprise because you seen this half barrel, and then you started shooting down, and when you hit the curves, you rode the walls like a bobsled.
Adele, we got to take a break for the news, but I'm going to ask these guys to stick around. Originally, we were going to get and talk for an hour, but I have a feeling we're going to just talk for another hour.
Well, I love hearing about Riverview. I'm at work today, and I just had to take off this half hour waiting for you just to tell you this.
Thanks, Adele.
Alrighty,
Bye-bye.
For meals that they remember, started right at Eagle. Good meals start with good food, and good food comes from Eagle. Your family's good at eating and at cooking, you're the best. So start it right at Eagle, you and your family do the rest.
Whatever your family's growing needs, you can save on your total food bill with those Eagle lower prices overall.
Good meals start with good food, And good food comes from Eagle.
This is WGN in Chicago. We just slipped by 11 o'clock, and we're going to take a break for the news, and then I'm going to ask Bill and Chuck to stick around, because I got a lot of other things I want to ask you about. But you mentioned, just while the commercial was on, Bill Rafke mentioned your grandmother going to this Mardi Gras?
Right. Well, she dressed up. This Mardi Gras went on. Oh, it started at the beginning of the park, just about, didn't it?
Back in the we're talking about the 1900s. Yeah.
Well, except for the Warriors. The Warriors, they had to cut it out because they had this.
Okay. Well, my grandmother dressed up with a friend of hers in bloomers, and they were walking to the park. And this was back in the 20s. Yeah. Everything was very rigid, the codes and stuff. And the police stopped them on their way and told them that they're going to have to go home and get dressed again because they can't walk around with their legs showing like that.
Oh, for crying out loud. Anyway, a few memories and a reminiscence or two. We're talking about Riverview. We'll continue the conversation after Jim Lockman brings us all up to date with what's happening in 1980. Our WGN News here at 11 is brought to you by Delta. You can commute to St. Louis, Cincinnati, or Louisville on Delta. What's in the news, Jim?
Well, a group of about 20 suburban state lawmakers gathered in Springfield this morning to state their opposition to the proposed 2 cents per gallon hike in the Cook County gasoline tax. Steve Schickel has a report.
The legislators, mainly Republicans from outside the city of Chicago, said the proposal made by Cook County Board Chairman George Dunn is an insult to the suburbs. Representative Penny Pullen of Park Ridge spoke for the group.
This new tax would, in part, be used for salary increases for correctional guards, seemingly to reward them for their illegal strike. This tax would force motorists to travel across county lines to purchase gasoline.
The lawmakers claim the additional gas tax would bring the suburban tax on gas to 14.5 cents per gallon. They are going to contact all county board members and will begin a campaign to make suburban residents more aware of the protest. Steve Schickel, WGN News, Springfield.
The Chicago Board of Education meets today to consider the major budget cuts proposed by Interim Superintendent Angeline Caruso. Chicago Teachers Union President Robert Healy is disputing the size of the cuts proposed, saying the union's independent audit shows that the board does not need to make the extensive cutbacks they have proposed. Healy also warns the teachers will strike if the board decides to close the schools 3 days early this year. He calls such an action a clear violation of the teachers' contract. Teachers, by the way, will hold a referendum today on whether to report to work next Monday if they are not paid the checks they were supposed to get last Friday by the end of this week. Mayor Byrne and her newly named top financial aide, Edwin Yo, plan to meet with major bond rating services in New York City today. They will be discussing the city's financial condition. Guards continue to call in sick at the Cook County Jail as they seek higher wages and better working conditions. Negotiations to end the job action yesterday resulted in what both sides call an impasse, although County Board President George Dunn did offer the guards improved fringe benefits. In the meantime, sheriff's deputies and police have been assigned to guard duty at the jail complex, but a state of emergency is still in effect because of the shortage of guard personnel. No major problems have occurred since the job action began last Sunday. President Carter delivers his nationally broadcast State of the Union message this evening, in which an administration official indicates Mr. Carter will warn the Soviet Union to stay out of the oil-rich Middle East and the Persian Gulf. The official says the United States considers the Persian Gulf and the Middle East part of our vital interests, the same as Western Europe. The president's address will be broadcast here on WGN live beginning at 8 o'clock tonight. Sheriff's deputies and police have been assigned to guard duty at the jail complex, but a state of emergency is still in effect because of the shortage of guard personnel. No major problems have occurred since the job action began last Sunday. President Carter delivers his nationally broadcast State of the Union message this evening, in which an administration official indicates Mr. Carter will warn the Soviet Union to stay out of the oil-rich Middle East and the Persian Gulf. The official says the United States considers the Persian Gulf and the Middle East part of our vital interests, the same as Western Europe. The president's address will be broadcast here on WGN live beginning at 8 o'clock tonight. We'll check the Chicago area forecast in just a minute.
Delta Airlines announces the $98 Miami Express. Now, this is Delta, flight 1135. It's the 9 a.m. nonstop from Chicago to Miami every Monday through Friday. Now, you can fly Delta's Miami Express for just $98 each way in tourist, $118 each way in first class. Now, the fares apply to every seat in tourist, every seat in first class on Delta's morning nonstop to Miami. And there are no advance purchase or other restrictions. You just call up, pack up, and take off. Any Monday through Friday. And you fly back from Miami at the same low fare on Delta Flight 1136. Nonstop to Chicago at 1:10 p.m. Every Monday through Friday. Fly both ways in a Delta wide-ride Lockheed TriStar with living room cabins, your own 7-channel stereo, and superb dining. Call your travel agent. Ask for Delta's $98 Miami Express. Going portion of round trip must be completed by February the 8th. These fares are subject to government approval. Delta, ready when you are. So are we ready, Jim, for the weather forecast.
For the afternoon, partly sunny, cold, a chance for some snow flurries. Highs will be in the teens. Tonight, fair, again very cold. Overnight low 0 to 10 above. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, continued cold. The high tomorrow in the teens. The 11 o'clock temperatures not yet available. Once again, these are the 10 o'clock readings. 11 degrees at O'Hare Field, 13 at Midway, 12 on the lakefront. Humidity 61%. Wind is currently from the northwest at 10 miles per hour. The barometer 29.86 and rising. This is Jim Lockman.
And the news was brought to you by Delta. Fly Delta straight through Fort Myers and Sarasota, Bradenton. Jim has a complete report at noon, of course. If anything important happens, we'll tell you about it right away.
Have you talked to Hanley Dawson Cadillac today? If you have, you know that Hanley Dawson has the largest selection of Cadillacs in Chicago, and for a limited time, we're offering prices on our remaining stock of 50 79 models and more than 200 1980 models that are worth talking about. So if you're thinking about buying a new car, any car, you owe it to yourself to talk to Hanley Dawson first. Get a famous Hanley Dawson deal with immediate delivery, instant financing, and top dollar for trades. You're important to us. Respectfully, Hanley Dawson Cadillac, 630 North Rush in Ontario.
This is Wednesday on the Roy Leonard Show. Hello, Pat.
Hi, Roy.
Have you enjoyed the first hour?
Oh, I sure have.
Well, we got a lot more to talk about.
I was reminiscing about the Bobs along with this, and I went on the Bobs when I was about 12. I think you had to be 12 to get on. It must have been about 1948. And my girlfriend and I think soaking wet, we weighed 85 pounds apiece, and there was a bar that came down across your lap for security. And we could have slipped out very easily, and we were hanging onto the bar in front, the bar that wrapped around the back, and I vowed after that first dip that I would be a nun if I got off of that alive. Unfortunately, I never lived up to that promise, but I was terrified.
I wanted to ask Chuck, Pat brings up the bar that supposedly holds you in. How are roller coasters designed so that it's almost impossible to fly out? I mean...
Roller coasters are the safest ride in any amusement park.
Are you serious?
Yes.
In other words, I really shouldn't be scared. In other words, nothing will happen to me.
Well, not unless you decide the ride isn't thrilling enough for you and you decide to change seats halfway through.
Okay. But they are safe.
Very safe.
You might not think so, Pat, that first time, but isn't it nice to know?
I didn't. But I tell you, Roy, if you didn't like heights, you would have loved the flying turds. Because there you sat toboggan style. You were very close to the people next to you, and you rode the walls. It wasn't that high.
What was this called, the flying?
The flying turns.
Flying turns.
If you're interested, Six Flags is rebuilding the flying turns.
Have they? I've never seen another ride like it anywhere.
They're going to rebuild it. They were supposed to be up this year at all the parks.
Is this St. Louis?
All of the parks.
All the Six Flag parks. It should be ready for 1981. They've had some... the company that's building it had some engineering problems.
You know, I like the... we've gone both up to Great America, and we've gone down to Six Flags in St. Louis. I love the log rides. Now, did they have a log ride at Riverview or anything like that?
Well, they had the predecessor, which was called the Chutes to Chutes.
Oh.
And these were big wooden boats that slid down a slide and then hit the water. And once they hit the water, of course, it was the operator in the back that had to get this boat over close enough to shore.
Oh, hey, tell me quickly, because I've had arguments with my kids. Where do you get wet the most, in the front or the back?
Back, I do, depending. I get wet on the back, but depends where you are.
Well, yeah, it really depends where you are and what your weight is, really, which will bring the boat up or down in the front.
Oh, I see, yeah. But no, I don't mind that. You know, the log thing, riding around because you're kind of protected and everything. And going down, it's kind of exciting to get down.
And, of course, if you're in the back and everybody ducks in front of you, you're going to get all the water.
Pat,
Roy, is it true that the Bobs were the fastest roller coaster in the world?
Probably in its time it was.
Because it was kind of a badge of honor to have ridden the Bobs, and everybody wanted to do it. And there was the story that went around there.
Do you know how fast it went, Chuck?
Probably it probably got up near 80 miles an hour, somewhere in that vicinity, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
As long as we're talking about, we got to take a break for some commercials. Then we're going to take a lot of calls. If you have a question, we'll try to answer it. But how about the rating? You mentioned this Bob Carmel who rates roller coaster rides. How does he rate the top rides in the country?
Well, by going to all these amusement parks and having ridden over 300 and some coasters, he rates a Texas Cyclone, which is a Six Flag park in Houston, as number 1.
Now, do you know why that's up there? Do you know what it is about the Cyclone?
Yes,
have you ridden that one, Bob? Bill?
No, I haven't. I'd like to.
It's very similar to the Coney Island Cyclone. In fact, it was designed from blueprints, only making it rougher, steeper, and faster. And it's a Bob's type coaster with banked curves, and it doesn't slow down going into these curves. It just whips you around. And of course, this Thunderbolt at Kennywood Park, which is 30-some years old, he rates number 2, with interjecting a thought that he would rate it number 1 if they would run it brake-free. But being 35 years old and in an older park, they use the brakes on it to cut down on the maintenance costs. Not that it's a safety factor. But it just cuts down on their maintenance costs. I was out there last summer, and there was 2 other fellows with me from Aladdin's Castle, which is, they operate pinball arcades throughout the United States. And we were able to get some brake-free rides on the Thunderbolt and then ride it with the brakes, and it's like night and day. It's unbelievable, the difference.
Again, now, because you're a member of the Roller Coaster Buffs International...
Being a member of Roller Coaster Buffs International and ACE really helped. Yes.
Like when the park closed down or there's not too many people around, they would let you guys go on and do it brake-free.
Well, actually, we were there at 7 o'clock in the morning before the park opened.
And let's see, that's 1 and 2, and 3...
3 is Mr. Twister at Denver at Ilitch Gardens, and not too far away from there. They also have another coaster called the Wildcat at Ilitch, and then a few miles away, I think it's about 12 blocks away, they have another park called Lakeside, which has the one called the Cyclone, which is a very, very good coaster. It's rated in some people's top 10. And they have probably one of the best fun houses left in the United States. Lot of stuff they had. The people in Chicago that remember the rolling barrel in Aladdin's Castle, well, this fun house in Denver has 4 rolling barrels, back to back, and each one rolls in an opposite direction.
Now, when you go into one of these fun houses, there's no, other than the emergency door that one of the ladies was talking about, once you start, do you have to go through everything?
Well, the way this fun house was laid out is it was like a big room, and you could go from one thing to the next. They had the people that remember the Bug House at Riverview, they have the disc that you sit on, and it starts spinning, and eventually it will spin you off. And the only place you can really sit on there and stay on there is right in the center, and then they have a little electric jolt that'll knock you off of there, you know.
Oh, it does sound like fun. Hello, Bill. Bill? Well, I guess Bill.
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, here I am. Okay, yeah. Well, listen, I worked at Riverview about 25 years ago. I worked in Aladdin's Castle. My sister-in-law was manager of Aladdin's Castle. And I got a lot of memories from there. Like the lady mentioned that she went out the little door there because she got scared. Well, I used to run around the hallways behind the walls to make all kind of funny noises, you know.
Were you being paid for that, or were you just being a wise guy?
I was just being a wise guy.
Oh, I see.
I was having a ball. And what I originally called for was the parachutes that you were talking about before. I remember the manager from there, I believe his name was Gus Kendall. A lot of the managers out there also had other jobs within the park when the park was closed. Like Gus Kendall, he was head of the painters there, who painted all the rides during the winter months and things when the park was closed. And he had pictures there of when the parachutes originally was an elevator ride.
Eiffel Tower.
Right, where you...
Yeah, well, Chuck mentioned that. He mentioned when it was originally built.
Some of the shows.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Originally, it was the tower, and you went up, and then it was just there for a while, and then they added the chutes, right?
Right, and he had, this Gus Kendall, if I'm not mistaken, he had something to do with designing the release, because it used to go up on a big brass ring, the parachutes.
Yeah.
They went up on a big brass ring, and he had something to do with the designing of the release on the top, and they'd done away with the brass ring then. And like I said, I had a lot of fond memories out there just working out there.
Yeah. Have you seen this book, by the way, the book
No,
that
I
Chuck...
haven't. I plan on getting it.
Yeah, it's called Riverview, Gone But Not Forgotten. It'll bring you a lot of other memories, too. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, sure thing.
Good of you to call. I want to talk to Chuck Wildarczyk, too, and Bill Rafke about the designing of roller coasters. I kind of wonder, is there anything left that can be scarier or more dangerous? I mean, do you think there's something that somebody hasn't done yet in building a roller coaster?
Well, you know, it's interesting that you ask, because it seems like this newer breed of theme parks, such as Six Flags, Cedar Point, Kings Island, just to name a few of the better parks, are going back. And these corkscrew and looping coasters, Coney Island had one in 1900. Of course, the log flume ride is nothing more than a revamped shoots to shoots.
Yeah.
Now they're bringing back this flying turns ride, which there's none in existence today. There was, I think, 15 or 16 originally built, and they're all gone. And one company that built them's out of business, and the other company don't have blueprints. So, fortunately, a few of the fellows I know were able to supply these, and they could start rebuilding this ride again.
So instead of going forward, we're going to go back.
We're going back to the old thrill rides.
Bill, do you think that's a good idea? Would you like that as a kid?
Yeah, I'd like to go. Well, I was going to mention something. There was, what's his name, the man who designed the one at Six Flags?
Oh, John Allen?
Yeah, John Allen was mentioning about the tubular steel roller coasters. He said that one day a major accident's going to happen on these because he says their hairline cracks develop.
Hairline cracks can develop inside of tubular rails, and he's a very funny man. He just died recently. He was 84 years old, and he worked for Philadelphia Toboggan. He built some of the Screaming Eagle down at St. Louis and the Great American Scream Machine. Mr. Twister, number 3 coaster.
He built those?
Was his, yes.
Oh, I see.
Built and designed.
But he's concerned about cracks of what can't be seen?
Right, because he says he doesn't know any 3-inch midgets that they can send through the rails to check out any cracks.
I see, yeah.
And, well, what was his saying was, once somebody asked him what would be the ultimate coaster
somebody asked him what would be the
build.
ultimate coaster he could build, and he said that that would be a coaster when we send 30 people out and they all come back dead from heart attacks.
Thanks a lot, guys. Listen, we got to take a break, and then we're coming right back.
You can stretch your energy dollar by the way you cook and use hot water. Cook with a low flame. Keep pots and pans covered. Take showers instead of baths. Fix leaky hot water faucets. You'll find more dollar stretchers in our free booklet, How to Use Natural Gas Wisely and Save Money. Write to People's Gas, Box 22, Chicago 60690.
Gas is the most economical fuel for your home.
Imagine saving 1/3 to 1/2 off the regular low prices of the newest and smartest sportswear and dresses you've ever seen.
In the face of rising prices everywhere, you'll probably never have a chance to equal these savings.
It's the William A. Lewis Winter Clearance Sale, and if you hurry in, you'll find long-sleeve print blouses with mandarin or bow necks.
You'll see all kinds of smart jackets, vests, skirts, and pants in solids and contrasting designs.
Included is a special group of better dresses, both 1- and 2-piece styles, in all the wanted new fabrics, such as terry, fake suedes, and iridescent velours. Even imported 100% wool knit skirt and pantsuits.
The best news of all is that every item has been reduced at 1/3 and in many cases even 50% off their regular low price.
Naturally, you won't find every style in every color or size, but the values are simply incomparable. And if you hurry, you'll find what you want.
Sportswear and better dresses reduced 1/3 to 1/2 during the winter clearance sale at William A. Lewis.
It's about 17 minutes after 11. That sale ends on January 31st. 17 after 11 if you want to set your watch. And if you want all natural flavors and vitamins and iron, get Mrs. Grass's Instant Soup in Seconds.
The city dawn rushes on as people stumble through another day. Their mood seems gray. The morning rain, the traffic's pain cannot affect the way I feel today. It's no mistake. The day is gonna be great. Let that sun break out, lift up your head and shout. It's gonna be a great day. A great day. Come on! Kellogg's waits for you. The spirit comes shining through, promising you a great day. Get it, get it, get it. K-E-double-L. Oh, it's double good. Starting Kellogg's way.
No matter how the day looks, it can look better behind a bowl of Kellogg's. Corn Flakes, Rice Krispies, Sugar Frosted Flakes. Trust your morning to Kellogg's.
Hey, you got it. Now let's get it. It's not far away. Kellogg's will help you say it's gonna be a great day.
It's 18 and a half minutes after 11. It's interesting that, Paul, you should call because we were talking about safety a minute ago. Did you work at Riverview?
Yes, I worked right next to the Bob's in Indianapolis Racer, and I also worked on the Moon Rocket and the Boomerang. That's the 3 concessions that weren't owned by the park.
Mm-hmm.
And every time the safety crew would come to test the Bobs out, we had to go over there to give them extra ballast in them rides so they could check out the brakes. You'd go through. Up on the top, they'd stop you on a high hill. Then when you come off of that, they'd stop you over maybe on a 3rd hill. But when they come down to the bottom and you were going to go into the loading platform or the dock, as they called it, everybody would have to jump out and push it, because if you didn't, then you'd have to get it rolling back and forth, and then push it up the hill.
You must have worked for Mr. Curlin, huh?
No, I worked for Dick Woodward.
Oh, you say you worked on a boom?
Oscar the tailor. I can't remember Oscar's last name, but he had a tailor shop around the corner, and he owned Indianapolis Racer and Moon Rocket.
You're going back to the mid-40s.
Yes, I am.
Right.
Right after I got out of service.
Glad we could bring back a few memories to you anyway, Paul.
Oh, absolutely. This has been fantastic hearing about Riverview again, and when you've worked there with that 2.5-mile midway. People don't believe that Midway was 2.5 miles long.
Wait a minute, we haven't even talked about the Midway yet. 2.5 miles of Midway?
Yeah, 2.5 miles of Midway. When you first come in the park there by the Tilt-A-Whirl, that's the start. And you would end up right there. But you would go around, and it would zigzag around over by the boatyard down by the river. And you had Hades where you would have to turn, and then the back end of the chutes would be there.
Comet.
And the Comet, right. And behind the Comet at one time, I don't know whether you remember, was a racetrack for midget race cars.
That's before my time, but I had heard about it.
The last ride in the park, as you went down the Midway, you had Hades, and then right to the right of Hades, that's where you turned. Right behind that ride there, I think that was the Comet, you had a racetrack for regular midget race cars.
Real, I mean, stands for people to sit and watch, or
that's right.
Oh, real
I think
racing.
I saw a picture of that, but I don't really think it was by the Comet, though. I mean, I'm not sure, but like I said, I just saw a picture of that.
It was the last ride on the right, on the end of the, right down next to the river.
Yeah.
All right.
Hades was down there.
Paul, thank you for calling.
Okay.
You mentioned the Midway. What kind of entertainment did they have entertainment, as we would call it, at Riverview?
The basic entertainment was the Mardi Gras and some of the carnival-type games that you could win prizes at. And today,
freak show.
Two collectors, well, a freak show, yeah. Of course.
Did they have a freak show?
Oh, yes. At the Riverview shows, I have a movie that shows some of the people, the bearded lady, eventually somebody bought her a Gillette and she shaved and became the tattooed lady. And that's basically what this movie was about. And I have Popeye, the color fellow, used to pop his eyes out. And
there's a
snake
by the way,
charmer.
back up a minute. There's a gross picture in your book.
Right, I got a picture of Popeye doing his thing.
I mean, was this guy, did he really, I mean, was this an illusion, or he really did it?
No, he did. And his conclusion was to pop both out together.
Oh,
right.
My God.
As a matter of fact, I ran across an article in school the other day in the paper of Popeye. He's still living.
Yeah.
The man is?
Yeah. I've got I Xeroxed it when I was at school. It shows him one eye, the other eye, and then both of them. And he's...
Has anybody ever discussed this medically, whether... Well, let's not. Anyway.
And, of course, some of the well-known freaks were the alligator lady and the world's tallest man, world's fattest lady, and things like that. They had different attractions each year. But as a whole, it was the carnival-type games where you could win prizes was their shows. Back years ago, they used to have dance bands. John Philip Sousa, Harry Truman gave a political speech there in
At Riverview?
1948 in a band shell, yes.
Wow. Hello, Cheryl.
We've had a vase in our family that we've always thought was from Riverview, but talking previously, it's dated August 13th, 1903, and it says the Chutes on it. And was there any other parks prior to Riverview that was like that?
Yes, there was quite a few parks. Roy and I were talking before that Chicago was probably the amusement capital of the world at one time. And if we go back to the turn of the century, there was a park called Chicago Water Chutes Park. And it was right at Kedzie and Jackson Boulevard where the car barns are today. And it is believed that the Chutes to Chutes at Riverview came from Chicago Water Chutes Park when it closed. There was other parks such as Luna Park, White City, Forest Park in Forest Park, Illinois, right at the end of the subway elevated line at the Congress Expressway, around Des Plaines and the Congress Expressway.
So there were others. Oh, good. I'm glad you called, Cheryl.
Yeah, thank you for clearing that up.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bill Rafke just handed me he's got a fantastic album here.
Got more.
This is just one of your...
Oh, yeah. Like I say, all the photos in there are Chuck's that I bought from him.
Oh.
And my whole room is loaded with
There's
photos.
one. Here's Harry Truman. They had a big stage, and they had red, white, and blue banners as you would have.
Band shell is where
this is the band show.
Right.
Did any of the big bands ever play at Riverview? Or?
Yeah, they did back in the 20s and 30s. Some of the bigger bands. That was before my time, so I don't remember because My first trip probably to Riverview was around 1942 during the war years.
All right. Listen, I want to talk about they had a roller rink over there, too, didn't they?
Right.
I want
Riverview roller rink.
I want to talk about that because, of course, roller skating is one of the big things that everybody's back into. Well, we will, right after we take a break for a couple of messages.
One of the most important things in choosing a hotel room, unfortunately, is the one thing most guests never see until it's too late: the hotel room. Now, this room is spacious, well-appointed, and tastefully decorated. Note the contemporary artwork. That's an original, not a copy. The thick quilted covers on a king-size bed, and the rich wood furniture that makes the room seem more like a home than a hotel. All in all, this certainly could be a room at one of Chicago's finer hotels. In point of fact, it is the Midland Hotel. We've just completed a multi-million-dollar renovation program that includes spending thousands of dollars to redecorate every one of our 300 guest rooms. And our location next to LaSalle Street with its banks and businesses puts us in the richest neighborhood in town. So why stay on the Gold Coast when you can stay closer to the gold? The Midland Hotel, Adams at LaSalle.
11:25 on WGN in Chicago. Do you know what is 1,100 miles closer than Colorado and just as scenic as Switzerland? I'll tell you, it's the beautiful Geneva Lakes area, Holiday Land, and it's only, an hour's drive from your house? They've got on the challenging downhill skiing, the miles of cross-country and snowmobile trails, sleigh rides, ice fishing, skating. There are 7 outstanding resorts and just a host of super motels and inns with lodging and entertainment to please every budget and taste and every member of the family. Here you could spend a relaxing evening by the fireside after an exhilarating day of winter sports. Enjoy the complete Haute-Prairie ski life, too. Disco dancing, swimming, sauna, game rooms, great restaurants. Many of them feature exciting ethnic cuisine with menus at every price level. Just call 414-248-1000 for information, and they'll help you plan your best winter trip yet. A Geneva Lakes winter getaway. When you find there's so much so near, you're going to want to stretch it into an exotic vacation. Call 414-248-1000. Call today. Don't waste your travel time or money this winter when the Geneva Lakes area in nearby southern Wisconsin has it all. I want to ask Bill Rafke and Chuck Wildarzik, our guests today. Was there a roller skating rink at Riverview?
Yes, it was called the Riverview Roller Rink, and it was right on Belmont Avenue. And it was built about in, I think, the teens, 1915, maybe something like that. And they originated a dancer that is still done today. Since I'm a roller skater, we still do it.
You're a roller skater, too?
Yeah, I ride. I roller skate with the axles.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called the Romp, and it was called the Riverview Romp. And Rush Young was the organist over at the rink. And the rink, however, when the park closed, still stayed open. It didn't have much to do with the park. It was leased out to people. In other words, the park did own it, but it was leased out. And what happened is, when Riverview was closed down, the people that bought it really didn't want to try to buy the people out of their lease, so they decided to get out of the lease. So when the lease did run up in '71, it's been rumored, I'm not saying it's true, but it's been rumored that the rink was torched.
Oh.
So
that's too bad.
Yeah, and it's a shame because now all these people, a lot of the skaters, the old skaters that I meet at some of the rinks, they were all from Riverview, and they all talk about Riverview, the rink.
The one thing about roller skating today is it isn't as noisy as it was in those days.
No, the wheels today are much more quieter.
Yeah.
They've got the fiberglass. They've got also urethane wheels.
Sure.
And a lot of people, they don't have the ball bearings anymore.
Right. Are there a lot of kids your age? Bill Rafke, in case you just joined us, is a young 17-year-old student over at Amundsen High who's into this Riverview thing. In fact, Bill is really responsible for us doing this show. Are there a lot of kids your age that are into roller skating now?
Oh, yes, a lot of it. Well, disco being popular as it is, a lot of them go up there on Friday and Saturday nights when they have the disco and they skate.
Yeah.
And it's quite crowded.
The one thing that I remember about the roller rink, of course, I was an avid roller skater when I was younger. It's just now that I don't have the time, and my wife's got a bad leg, so we really can't go. But the thing that I remember is when you got off the bobs and your knees were a little shaky and you walked around the corner, you hit the back end of the roller rink, and, of course, that was before air conditioning, so they had the back doors open, and a crowd always gathered to watch the skaters, And as Bill said, this Riverview Romp became very famous. Many, I guess, people that went to Riverview probably go into the other rinks today and say, why don't you do something like the Riverview Romp?
That's great. Listen, we got to take a break. We have a quick business report. There are a whole bunch of people still waiting on the telephone. You've all been very patient, and if you'll just hang on, we'll get to you right after Max has his update on the business news.
Chicago's new downtown is growing every day, and that means more busy people to serve. That's why National Boulevard Bank opened an office at 1 Illinois Center. That's why we're constantly improving our premier service to bring you faster, more convenient, more efficient banking. So if you live or work in the dynamic new downtown, come into National Boulevard in the Wrigley Building or at 1 Illinois Center and see why we've earned our name.
The bank for the new downtown.
Member FDIC.
This is WGN Chicago. It is 11:30 now. Drive away a brand new Cadillac. Save big during Steve Foley Cadillac's spectacular 10-day sale. It's going on in Northbrook. Eden's at Lake Cook Road.
Tired of this weather? Why not move to the warm sunshine at Fountain of the Sun in Arizona? Take last December 27th. It was 19 degrees in Chicago. Fountain of the Sun, 68. Or January 5th, Chicago, 4 degrees. Fountain of the Sun, 70. And beautiful weather is just one thing this retirement community has going for it. There are beautiful homes and condominiums at prices from the low 40s. There's an 18-hole golf course, a recreation complex, and a location just 27 miles from downtown Phoenix. Come see for yourself. Spend a week at Fountain of the Sun for only $175 per couple, transportation not included. This offer is limited to couples over 40. For more information, just call 478-6915. Join one of Arizona's friendliest retirement communities. Call 478-6915 now. Fountain of the Sun is a project of Universal Development Corporation.
Let's make a quick check-in here with Max Armstrong for the business update. How are the markets doing, Max?
Most of the markets are higher today, Roy. The stock market higher. The Dow Jones Industrial is up about 2 1/3 points. The Chicago grain market higher. March wheat up 4 at 454.5. March corn at the Board of Trade up 3 at 273.5. March oats 2 cents higher at 146 3/4. The soybean complex is higher. March beans up 8 at 666.5. March soybean oil up 11 points at 23.80. March meal up $2.10 at $188. January iced broilers at the Board of Trade down 20 at $44. January plywood up $18.50 at $212. And January silver down $0.50 at $33. On the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, mostly lower markets there today. February pork bellies down 130 points at $40.65. February hog futures down 65 at $40.45. April hogs down 57 at $39.65. February cattle futures down $1.10 at $63.35. April cattle down 90 at $66.30. March feeder cattle down $1 at $78.80. March lumber up $1.20 at $234.50. January gold up 30 at $700 an ounce on the international monetary market. Again, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 2.39. It's at 868.60. We'll have more complete market reports on the noon show.
In Illinois, we've found a campaign to turn to, with a candidate to believe in, George Bush.
I have strong convictions on our foreign policy. I am convinced that countries around the world are looking at the United States and they're saying, do you care anymore? Do you offer the hope of freedom anymore to those of us who want to be free? Or those of us who want to stay free? I see a diminution in U.S. credibility. I see a decline in U.S. power. I see a pulling back and a turning inward. And I want to be a part of changing all of that.
In seeking a president, we seek credibility. George Bush has come here. He has met us one American at a time and proved by his experience and integrity that there is a new, competent, and better way to lead our country. George Bush, a president we won't have to train. Authorized and paid for by the George Bush for President Committee.
Now, a lot of you who are listening to WGN this morning might not be able to get through the telephones. I will tell you, gentlemen, of all of the shows that we have done and the different guests that we have and the different things that we do, I never dreamed there would be this much reaction to your being here, but obviously this is something that Chicagoans love to talk about. So let me mention Chuck Wildarzyk's address again in case you want to write and you want to find out more about the Roller Coaster Buffs International or any of these things, or if you want, Chuck and Bill to come out and speak to your group or put on their little show, you can write to Riverview Publications, and that's where you write to Chuck. It's 5246 North McVicker, Chicago, 60630. All right?
He has met us one American at a time and proved by his experience and integrity that there is a new, competent, and better way to lead our country. George Bush, a president we won't have to train. Authorized and paid for by the George Bush for President Committee.
Now, a lot of you who are listening to WGN this morning might not be able to get through the telephones. I will tell you, gentlemen, of all of the shows that we have done and the different guests that we have and the different things that we do, I never dreamed there would be this much reaction to your being here, but obviously this is something that Chicagoans love to talk about. So let me mention Chuck Wlodarzyk's address again, in case you want to write and you want to find out more about the Roller Coaster Buffs International or any of these things, or if you want, Chuck and Bill to come out and speak to your group or put on their little show, you can write to Riverview Publications, and that's where you write to Chuck. It's 5246 North McVicker, Chicago, 60630. All right? Ben, you've been waiting a while.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
I wanted to tell you, I've been at Kennywood Park in Pennsylvania, and that's the hardest place in the world to find.
For those who want to go on one of the great roller coaster rides.
Yeah, we're from Chicago. We went down to West Virginia, where my two younger sisters are living, and my sister recommended we go to Kennywood Park, so we went, and they have signs on every street corner in Pennsylvania to try to find this place. Well, we eventually found it, and I think what really makes you want to go on this ride is that it looks all wooden and it creaks, and just to know that there's a chance that it's going to collapse.
Is it a wooden? Is that a wooden one?
Yes, it is, and it's a very unusual coaster in the aspect that it's built in and out of valleys.
Oh.
So as soon as you leave the loading platform, rather than go up a hill, there's a big drop into a valley. and then your last one, you come out of a tunnel, and there's over a 90-foot drop right into a valley.
Right out of a tunnel?
Right out of a tunnel.
Oh, boy. But being wood, to a roller coaster buff, that's much more thrilling, right, Chuck?
Yeah. Absolutely, because as I said before, each coaster is built from blueprints, and they all have their own surprises.
Yeah.
Where these steel ones are kind of manufactured and just put up in the parks.
Yeah, you did enjoy the ride then, Ben.
Yes, I also want to ask Bill and Chuck if they've ever been to Hershey Park in Pennsylvania.
I haven't been to Hershey Park, but they have one of the better coasters there, the Comet.
I'm planning to visit there this year, but I understand the Comet's going to go.
Well, they're talking
room for
about
a new coaster. Yeah.
We were on one of the rides there. My brother talked me into going on one of the roller coasters, and I think I almost died. It was really a good one. It had a couple of loops and everything, and it was coming towards the end of the ride, and it just stopped. It didn't get all the way to the platform, and all of a sudden the track started vibrating, and I heard a coaster coming behind us. I looked at my brother to say goodbye, and it was another roller coaster right next to us, and I don't know if they did that on purpose or what. I swear to God, you never see anyone pray as fast as I did.
Well, that's what, I was in the coaster that was built down at Six Flags called the Mindbender. It's run by computer. And when we were down there, they were having some problems with it. And he says, okay, well, there was a 2-mile line to ride this ride because it was a new coaster.
Yeah.
So they had all the people backed up, and they says, okay, we're having problems, but what we'll do is we'll get you on right away, and you can get your movies and stuff. And the problem was the computer, something was telling it that there was a train sitting in the station, so it wouldn't let the other trains go. So they had to get a crew out there to push this train out of the brakes, and these brakes are just clamped onto this car.
Yeah.
And it took them about 15 minutes to get this thing and push it into the station. To finally tell that computer that there's no train in the station.
Thank God for the computer, though.
Yeah.
All right, hey, good to share with you, Ben. Thanks for calling.
Okay, take it easy.
23 minutes before noon in Chicago. Are you a homeowner? What are you doing to save money on your fuel bills this winter? You may have insulation, you may have storm windows, but how about the heat that's wasted up the chimney? Furnaces that don't have automatic flue dampers allow the heat to escape up the chimney every time the furnace is in an off cycle. But there is Fuel Boss, the automatic flue damper that closes your flue when the thermostat turns the furnace off. Heat stays in, you burn less fuel. Now, Fuel Boss is designed certified for gas furnaces by the American Gas Association. It's listed for oil furnaces by the Underwriters Laboratories, and it qualifies for a federal tax credit. A descriptive brochure will be sent to you without obligation. Just dial a toll-free number, 800-331-1105. 800-331-1105. Learn how Fuel Boss can save money on oil or gas consumption. Just dial them up, 800-331-1105. Hi, Nancy.
Hello.
You have an experience on the rides?
Not personally, but I sure remember it. This might be interesting to Chuck and Bill, too. Years and years ago, my mother, who wouldn't go on any of the roller coaster rides because she was afraid, allowed herself to be sucked into riding the moon rocket, which, if I remember, was based on centrifugal force. And she laughed so hard with her mouth wide open that her bridge work flew out.
Well, we found chains, and we found just about everything else except teeth.
Well, the people at the moon rocket did find her bridge work.
Oh, no, she got them back?
Yeah, they wrote a letter about a week later, and it was a very business-type letter, but very polite, stating...
Dear lady, we have your teeth.
Right, that's about how it went.
Oh, that's great. What was this moon rocket? Do you guys remember that ride?
Yeah, there's a picture in the book of it. It was a centrifugal force ride that sat on about a 30-degree angle and went around in a circle very fast. And it was one of the few rides that went around in a circle that I didn't get sick on, because it went around so fast it gave you a sensation you were constantly climbing.
Oh,
and then that ride was taken out around 1948, and the hot rods were put in there, which happened to be Tony Two-Ton Baker's favorite ride.
Two-Ton Baker. I haven't heard that name in a long time. Yeah. Was he associated with the park?
Well, probably many of the listeners remember him from when he had his program.
On WGN.
On WGN, and I guess one of his most famous songs was "I was a little petunia, a little
lost boy in a petunia patch."
Something about a petunia patch.
Little lost something.
And of course, he was a piano player, and he ended his career. He died a couple of years ago. He ended his career at Mangrum Chateau.
Did he ever go on any of the rides?
Well, we had a long conversation on one of the Riverview talk shows we did with him, and he went on very few of them. They had problems getting him into the parachute seat to film commercials and stuff.
Right.
And of course, everybody probably seen him on that commercial where he's riding the bobs, but he really wasn't.
That was a fake, huh? No.
Well, yeah.
Nancy, thanks for sharing with us.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, Ralph.
Hi. You guys have been talking a lot about roller coasters and everything, but nobody has talked about the water bug. I don't know if the guys remember that.
Yeah. Bill, you remember the water bug?
Yeah, I do.
Chuck?
Right on.
Yeah,
it's big old inner tube, and you sat inside. You had this big padded steering wheel, and it had an outboard motor of some kind, and you just drove around this big swimming pool, and you plowed into each other and bounced off, and water splashed all over. And then you talked about Two-Ton Baker's song. It was "I'm a lonely little petunia in an onion patch."
Oh, all right. There you go. Thank you.
All I do is cry and cry all day.
What I was going to say is the water bug was bumping cars on water.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I love the
what it
bumper
was.
cars.
Right.
That's the one that worked with electricity.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But this was the same thing on water?
These were gas-operated little cars that had big inner tubes around them.
Really? That
You
sounds
floated on
great.
water and bumped into people and splashed.
Love it. Oh, let's bring them back.
Yes.
Thanks, Ralph.
You bet you're right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
About 19 minutes before 12 on WGN in Chicago. No, you guys mentioned a little while ago about bringing back some of the old rides. That may be the thing that some of these theme parks resort to next. I mean, if they can't scare you, maybe
some of the parks have this water bug type ride now.
Oh, they do.
But rather than having a wheel to steer it, they have a lever and either I don't know how to control them or whatever, but I'm going around in circles and everybody's bumping me.
You're not doing too well, huh?
I can't take my revenge out on anything.
A guy can ride every roller coaster in the world, but he can't work the little water bug. It's 18 and a half before 12. We'll be right back.
John Hendricks' Evolution of the Blues, the exciting new musical at Drury Lane Theater Water Tower plays. Cup says it's guaranteed to chase your blues away. Phone 266-0500 for reservations and information.
And Christmas at Seymour Payson. It wasn't quite up to expectations this year. No, they've still got some coats and suits and dresses and designer sportswear. They have it left over. And, of course, now the new merchandise is arriving daily. So what do you do at the height of the winter season? Well, if you're Seymour Payson, you offer a half-price sale on these winter fashions that you can wear right now, ladies. No, really, unprecedented savings like this mean if you buy a coat or a suit that regularly costs $150 to $300, you'll pay only $75 to $150. If you're looking for a dress or a selection from the exceptional Seymour Payson Sportswear Department, you would regularly pay from $60 to $100, but now at a half-price savings, it's only $30 to $50. Now, really, it's a phenomenal opportunity to increase the wardrobe, save money, and still be able to wear fashions now. Help Seymour Payson create some space now for the daily incoming spring merchandise, and at the same time, save yourself a bundle alterations at cost. Stop by now, because the prices will be in effect only while quantities last. Seymour Payson at 2629 West Devon in Chicago.
AC Delco helps lower the boom on inflation. If you missed the recent Delco Freedom Battery sale, here's good news. AC Delco has just slashed its regular prices on the 3 most powerful automotive Delco Freedom batteries, from the economical Freedom 40 to the top-of-the-line Delco Freedom 60. Get your maintenance-free, never-add-water Delco Freedom battery and take advantage of our reduced regular prices at outlets where quality AC Delco parts are sold. You'll say,
Thanks, Delco.
I want to, really, we've had more fun today talking to Chuck Wildazik and Bill Rafke about, Riverview and about games and about roller coasters. However, is there anything, Chuck, and Bill, because you admit now that you go on roller coasters. I'm scared. I take my kids up to, we've gone down to Six Flags and we have been up to Marriott's Great America. They'll go on these things. I just, for some reason, can't bring myself to it. Is there anything you can say to me? Is there any state of mind that I should get into?
Try it. You might
Just
like it.
try it, you'll like it. I know that's what my son Kyle keeps telling me. He says, come on, Dad, try it, you'll like it.
There's coasters I suggest you don't get on the first time and try them, such as the Texas Cyclone.
Yeah.
But if you happen to wander around near Sandusky, Ohio, and you get out to Cedar Point, you might try the Blue Streak there. It's a very mild, very fast,
Really?
but mild. Also the one at Six Flags, the Screaming Eagle.
Not too bad, really?
No, it's a family-type coaster. It's very fast, very exhilarating, but it's not rough.
Oh, I see.
And it's fast and smooth. You just
Very
go through it.
smooth.
Right?
Yeah, and it is safe. I mean, that's the big thing.
It's the safest ride in the park. People most of the time think that the roller coaster probably is the most dangerous ride in the park, but it's one of the safest. You take your just from newspaper reports, these aerial tram rides. They've had a lot of serious problems with those in the last few years.
Right.
And it probably isn't as safe as a roller coaster.
Okay. All right. I'm not saying I'm convinced, but I may give it a try one of these days. It's 11:45 in Chicago. Hi, Kathy.
Hi. I have a question for Bill.
Sure.
There used to be a game at Riverview where stuffed animals were on top shelf, and they had strings attached to them. I want to know the name of the game and if anybody really won anything.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, you mean there would be a game on the Midway that was not strictly legitimate?
Wow.
Do you remember, Bill?
I don't remember. Chuck, do you?
Well, I'm not sure she's talking about the where you threw the balls and knocked the little cat toss down.
No.
Oh, they had a string pull thing where you had a couple hundred strings you were handed.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
And you pulled one of them out, and you usually got one of these
something that was worth about a
Japanese
nickel.
things that were made of nickel that you stuck your fingers in and couldn't get them out.
Did anybody ever win the real good stuff?
Once in a while, there was a few good prizes in there.
Sorry, Kathy, we can't remember the name. Somebody will anyway. Thanks for calling.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Bob.
Hi.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you. I just wanted to mention I'm 47 years old and remember Riverview very, very well. And I remember as a kid, I was like you. I wasn't too keen about the high rides, so I could do without those. And we'd go as a big group. And like on 2-cent day, you could get in for 2 cents, and then take maybe $1 and go over to the penny arcades and just go completely nuts.
See, that's the trouble with going. I'll level with you. One of the problems of going to the theme parks today, you go into those, the penny arcades or the shooting galleries. I mean, you can drop $5 or $10 in 20 minutes.
Yeah, but like the penny arcades, they were all penny machines. Everything was a penny.
It was really a penny, yeah.
Oh, and you could go home with treasures and pictures of movie stars and cowboy actors and athletes and stuff like that. I mean, at least you had a day, at the end of the day, you felt like you got something out of it other than just thrilled.
Right. But like me, I must admit, I do enjoy playing pinball machines. I mean, I know why kids like to play pinball machines. It's fun.
Well, skee-ball's my favorite. When I go to the parks, I will go on and I'll just keep playing skee-ball and keep feeding the machines, and I've got stacks of tickets at home.
Is skee-ball, by the way, an old game? Was that around in the years?
very old. Riverview had 3 skee-ball arcades, and if you go to some of the newer theme parks today, they have skee-ball arcades.
Yeah, because we played that up at the Great America. Yeah, by the way, as long as you have all these tickets at home, Bill, can we have a little session here? Can you teach me how to be a better skee-ball player? I mean, can you get to the point where you know how to throw the ball and hit the 50 all the time?
I was doing that there for a while. When I kept going to this one park and kept playing, I got to the point where I was really throwing it into the 50s. But the prizes that they gave for the tickets, forget it. I just kept the tickets at home.
Okay. Hey, thanks for calling.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. Hello, Chuck.
Hi, well, Roy, I got it yet. I was just
was telling your producer about the 1955-56 when Coke used to rent Riverview for their Coke days, which I already mentioned. But Wally, at that time, was doing a WGN broadcast by the name of the Hi-Fi Club.
No, Phillips was doing that? This is when he had hair.
Yeah, Phillips, when he had hair, did that remote at Riverview, in their pavilion there at Riverview. And I can just remember when Coke did rent, my father was with Coca-Cola at the time, and they handed out coupons for rides. You could either get on with the ride ticket itself, or you give them 6 of these coupons. Well, it just so happened that we had a an everlasting supply of these coupons.
Of course.
But, possibly the game that you're talking about would have been Fascination, which was worked on a ball type deal.
I remember that. Yep.
You used to roll the balls down and win tickets, and you have to have so many tickets to get a stuffed animal or TV set or some funny thing like that. But,
yeah, Chuck, I remember that one from Paragon Park up in Nantasket
Well,
Beach
you know,
in
it's funny that he mentioned Fascination, because this is a game that's coming back in some of the parks today. We were just at Kings Island last summer, and they have a very exhilarating game there because they give you 2 balls to roll.
Oh.
And if you thought Fascination was fast with 1, try it with 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, is Fascination like skee ball?
Well, in a sense, it's more like bingo. You're rolling balls and
you got
lighting
squares,
up, lighting up.
And lights come on. I
diagonally.
remember that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Bill Rafke is sitting here. He doesn't know what we're talking. Well, you're only 17, man. I mean, you got to be old
I've seen
that.
it. I just it's still in some of the parks, but I've never stopped in because I'm not a biggie on those games.
Yeah.
But only skee ball is my favorite.
Hey, Chuck, thanks for calling.
You bet, right.
Wally Phillips from the park. How about that? With hair, right? He was also fat then, I think, too. He's lost a little weight.
Yeah, lost quite a bit.
Thanks.
You
It's
take care.
10.5 minutes before 12 now. See, I can say that because he's out taping a Dinah Shore show today in Hollywood. Got a tip for people who love fresh fruit. It's Western winter pear time. Delicate green-skin Anjous, russet golden Bosque, and pink-cheeked Comise pears. They have them at Hillman's. Winter pears, by the way, are often shipped in a firm, unripened condition. They want them to be at a prime when they reach you, so allow them to ripen for a few days. When they yield to gentle thumb pressure, they're all ready to eat. May not change color, but they'll be sweet and full of juice. Surprise your family with a special treat. Ripen up a bowl of Western winter pears. There are a lot of restaurants that offer a lot of good food, but how about a restaurant that has a luncheon special that is really special? Well, the restaurant is Mama Luigi's, and weekdays you can choose from several full-course luncheon specials. As far as entrees go, try a veal francesa, or chicken cordon bleu, or brochette Italian style. All of these, including shrimp Dijon, for under $4. Mama Luigi's, American and Italian favorite, seafood and sandwiches, all priced within the budget. Lunch, dinner, banquets, entertainment, Wednesday through Sunday. Excellent food and service await you at Mama Luigi's. They're at 7500 South Harlem. Mama Luigi's. If you want to write this phone number down for a reservation, 496-0900. Hello, Vern.
Yeah. I have a question, but talking to your producer, he thought you might be interested in what I told him about the Mardi Gras. My dad used to drive the floats in the Mardi Gras.
Oh, boy.
Now, this was back in 1925. I used to go with him. You had to sign up for 30 days. You know, the Mardi Gras ran 30 days. And you had to have a Model T touring Ford car. And you would report there around 7 o'clock in the evening, and then they would put the top down on the car, and they would put a cover, a regular cover right over the Ford car.
Yeah.
And then they would attach you to a float, and of course you got in the parade, and then you dragged the float around the entire park, like this fellow said, 2.5 miles.
Yeah.
It would end about 9 o'clock, and then after that, of course, you would finish, and then you get all the tickets you want for rides.
Yeah, sounds great,
I
Vern.
rode on every ride in the park.
What was the question?
The question was, I want to know if your young man knew where San Souci Park was.
63rd and Halsted, right?
Ah, that don't sound right. My dad used to run one of the old streetcars, the open-sided streetcars, and he talked about going out on Archer Avenue.
Oh, now, I've got a postcard from San Souci.
Have you?
Yes, and maybe 63rd and... was that White City?
White City was
White
the 63rd.
City
Yeah,
was
I've been to White
63rd
City.
and King Drive.
Oh, okay. Well, I know I've got the postcard. I haven't.
Well, anyway, we could, if it was a matter of life or death, Vern, we could find out, okay?
Oh, yeah, it wasn't that important. I was just
Sure.
curious because I've been to all
gotcha.
the parks, and I was born and raised in Forest Park when he talked about the beautiful park there.
Hey, Vern, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Incidentally, speaking of streetcars, I want to thank Chuck because he brought me a calendar today. But wait a minute now. This is a 1924 calendar. I can't use this.
Well, 1924, date dates correspond with 1980.
Oh, does it? Oh, I can use this then.
Yes.
And is this the picture of the old Chicago streetcar? Is this from your collection?
Yeah, you know, Chicago at one time had the largest street railway system in the world. And actually in 1947, when they started converting some of the streetcars over to buses, about the time the CSL was bought out by the CTA.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll take my 1924 calendar and I'll use it. All right? Thank you. I appreciate it. Hi, Ed.
How are you?
Good. Got a question?
Yes.
Go.
I'm from Chicago here, and I remember Riverview and the Bobs.
Yeah.
A few others, White City, and now I just recently came back late last summer from California, and my nephew took us all out one evening, and we got on the road, and God, I wonder where the heck we were going. Finally, we wound up in a place called Magic Mountain.
Do you guys know this?
Yeah, it's Valencia, California.
And I've seen rides, but nothing to ever compare with that one.
What's that one? That's
the Revolution, Magic Mountain.
I don't know if he's talking about the Revolution.
I don't remember the name of it, but I
Is
thought,
it a wooden or a steel coaster?
Oh, that's steel. It was
that's
fierce.
the Great American Revolution. A couple of movies. A Wonder Woman segment was shot on or around that coaster, and then, of course, about a third of the movie Roller Coaster was shot.
Oh, is that where it was made?
Yes.
Oh, is that a good one in your estimation?
The movie?
No, the
coaster. Yeah, it's one of the better steel coasters in the country.
Yeah, but they have a wooden one out there too?
Yeah, they have a wooden one, which they've had a few problems with, and they got it going again. Now, Six Flags owns Magic Mountain now. They just bought that recently.
Oh, I see.
And we're going to hopefully have a convention out there in March.
Oh, all right. Ed, thanks for the comment.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
They said it couldn't be done, but new discovery did it. They said you couldn't do it, but you did. They said you couldn't get rich buttery flavor and still be a calorie saver, but Fleischmann's did the world a favor. You did it!
They said you couldn't get terrific taste with only half the calories of butter or margarine.
But new Discovery corn oil spread from Fleischmann's did it.
They said it couldn't be done, but new Discovery did it.
They said you couldn't get lots of light, creamy, fresh from the dairy flavor without lots of calories, but new Discovery did it.
They said it couldn't be done, but new Discovery did it.
New Discovery corn oil spread from Fleischmann's. All that rich, buttery flavor without all those calories. Only half the calories of butter or margarine in every serving. Up to now, it couldn't be done.
But new Discovery did it. Yes, new Discovery did it.
5 minutes before noon. County Fair Nuts at Austin Liquors.
Gas keeps going up, and everybody keeps asking the same thing.
When's somebody gonna do something about the rising cost of gas?
Well, somebody just has. Your local Fiat dealer. He's giving factory cash incentives, instant incentives, that can save you up to $300, $400, even $500 more today off cars that'll save you big money on gas tomorrow. Brand new 1979 Fiat Bravas, X19s and Stratas. Buy one of these economical Fiats now, and you'll save up to $300 more on a Fiat Brava with automatic transmission, sedan or wagon. Up to $400 more on an exciting Fiat X19 sports car. Up to $500 more on a front-wheel drive Fiat Strata with automatic transmission or air conditioning. And there's no waiting for a check, because you get your instant incentive the instant you've made your best deal on an economical Fiat.
Somebody's doing something at last.
Get your instant incentive at your local Fiat dealer now through January 31st, 1980.
Listen, this has been so much fun this morning, you guys. I want to thank you. And, of course, Bill Rafke doesn't really mind getting out of a few classes. Yeah, a Munson High School, however, awaits your presence, sir. And I know you got to get back to school. And Chuck Wlodarczyk, your book, Riverview, Gone But Not Forgotten, will certainly bring back memories to a lot of Chicagoans. And again, now you two, you don't mind people writing and asking about this little presentation. You do go out to clubs and things like that. And
yes, we do.
You have slides and movies and stuff like that.
Do it for special groups and for we've got quite a few booked already for different public libraries throughout Chicago and suburbs.
You can just write to Riverview Publications then, 5246 North McVicker, Chicago 60630. And the book, Chuck's book, is available at most of all the bookstores in and around Chicago. This has been great. If I ever get on a roller coaster, I'll let you guys know, all right? Thanks for coming by. We're going to take a break, and then we'll see you right after lunch.
The following is an editorial setting forth the views of WGN Continental Broadcasting Company. Speaking for the station, Corporate Vice President Alexander Field.
The candidates and their strategists are still pondering the effect of the Iowa caucuses on the 1980 presidential election. Meanwhile, Iranians are preparing for a presidential election of their own. It will be held this Friday, just about a year following the ouster of the Shah. Supposedly, this election, held under a new constitution, will be the final step in converting Iran from an autocratic monarchy to a democracy. The election, unfortunately for the people of Iran, isn't likely to change much. Here at home, until the political conventions determine the major party nominees this summer, we will see a continuing large field vie for those nominations. Each candidate is free to campaign as he chooses, as long as the money holds out. Not so in Iran. But with a week left in the campaign, the Ayatollah ruled 2 opposition candidates off the ballot. One was disqualified because his parents came from Afghanistan, thus denying their son Iranian origin. Another was declared ineligible because he voted against the Ayatollah's constitution. The Shah may have been everything the Ayatollah says he was, but the Ayatollah hasn't changed much except who sits in the chair of the despot.
The preceding editorial presents the views of WGN Continental Broadcasting Company. In keeping with our policy of fairness, we will provide an opportunity for reply to qualified persons or organizations having opposing views. Copies of this editorial available on written request.
One year you grow corn. The next year you grow soybeans. And when you grow corn, you probably use atrazine. And the atrazine can leave behind a triazine carryover that can hurt your beans. Corn with atrazine, then beans on the very same land. Now, your beans can probably live with some triazine carryover, but you wouldn't want to add any more, would you? Well, that's exactly what you do when you use some herbicides, but not when you use Modown. Modown is the effective broadleaf herbicide for beans that actually promises it won't add to triazine buildup. That's a promise some herbicides, like Cencor and Lexone, don't make. That's the Modown promise. Take advantage of it, and you can rotate your beans and your corn in perfect harmony. The Modown promise. We wouldn't make it if we couldn't keep it.
WGN Radio, Chicago. The time is 12 noon. Here's Max Armstrong.
Thank you, Len Johnson. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the WGN Noon Show. It's a day we find higher grain markets here in the Midwest.